I want my hero. Where's my hero? Where's the
The following content contains adult language and humor that is not suitable for viewers under the age of 18. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. The views and opinions expressed during the following video content are those of the individual and may not reflect those of others. Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome one and all to this edition of Pacific Forum for Pop Talk. Along with Baron Orman Tagge, I am your host, Mike. Cash Money is away with family this Sunday afternoon, but we will still have a show. And actually, what he's doing is he's helping his father out at a convention that his father is a judge at this weekend, so that's why Cash is in here.
He's walking around the convention muttering about bear sex in Baldur's Gate 3 and holding signs up and just muttering these people. So if you happen to see at that convention, you see Cash Money, just give him a sympathetic nod.
And of course, we are waiting on our esteemed guest, Gary Cassell. And as soon as he is here, we will talk about his comic, Vindicated Inc. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, I will go ahead and share my screen and we will share what Vindicated Inc. is all about.
I love when you share screens.
Meet the Seattle Vigilante. Like so many comic heroes, this warrior hides his identity. But his identity isn't the only secret he has to keep. After grievous wounds received during combat, Tier 1 operator John Russell begins to recover and comes to terms with his new reality of being an amputee. And as he learns how to use his new prosthetic limb, he finds himself caught up in the bureaucratic red tape that too many wounded veterans experience. Out of sheer frustration, John takes it out on the criminal scum of the city. But when reality kicks in, John realizes he started something that's having an impact. Story about a Vindicated Inc., the first of its kind disabled veteran action hero comic. The Vindicated Inc. graphic novel crowdfunding campaign on fundmycomic.com is provided in the description of this video. We hope you become a contributor. Please share this link. Thank you.
There we go. That is your look at Vindicated Inc.
And here is the website where you can help fund the comic. As you can see, they've raised $4,050 at the moment with 68 backers, raised in 2 months, and there's 61 days to go. And their goal for funding is $9,800. Now, as we move along here, as you can see, these are the different rewards that you get depending on how much you wish to contribute. And I will also include the link to help fund the comic into the chat. Since I don't see the bot working at the moment, but that should be kicking in shortly. But for $10, you get a PDF of Vindicated #1, and it currently has 8 backers. And for $15, you get the PDF and a thank you from Gary, and that currently has 4 backers. And then for $25, you get a side book, the PDF, and a thank you from Gary, and that currently has 35 backers, and Baron and I are currently backing that tier.
And Cash is rumored to actually open up that bullet book of his, which is amazing. And he's saying, "Yeah, I think I'll donate $1."
Well, that's true. It does give you. Let me scroll back up here. You can contribute with a minimum of $1. So it does give you that option. Of course, for $35, you get the signed book, a bookmark, the PDF, and a thank you. For $50, you get the signed book, the bookmark, art print, PDF, thank you. For $100, you get the signed book, the bookmark, the art print, a ball cap, a pin, the PDF, and a thank you. And for $200, you get to be drawn into the book. You have a signed book, a PDF copy, and a thank you. For $500, you get the private commission. You get the pin up, the cap, pin, a shirt, signed book, PDF, and a thank you. And then for $300, you get the signed book with the PDF, a statue, and a thank you. For $500, you get to be drawn into the book. You get the signed copy of the book, the PDF, a statue, and a thank you. And for $800, you get to be drawn into the book. You get a commission, and you also get the maquette. I probably mispronounced that. I do apologize. You get the cap, you get the pin, you get the shirt, you get the signed book, the PDF, and a thank you. And those are the tiers.
For $1,000, he'll come. All that he'll come by and make you breakfast. No,
come on, you and I both know he would tell you this right now. Fuck you, Baron.
Yes, he would. He would. And that's the thing I can say. I'll tell him I went for the $1,000 tier so he can come and make me breakfast some morning.
Right.
But I was not a cook.
In all honesty, I read a couple of chapters of this book, and it's a great book. It draws you into it immediately. You get a good backstory of the main character, John. And I told Baron and Cash, this is one of those, GoFundMe type deals, that I want to back, and I have backed.
Right.
Because I know I'm going to get what my money's paying for.
Right. We put our money where our mouth is on this. And, people sit back and constantly say, don't you like anything? Well, here's something we like, folks. And a chance for everyone to get involved on this one is, and this is no shot at Eric D. July or anything, but this is really, truly an independent project here. This is Gary himself. I don't think he's trying to make a comic imprint himself. It'd be great if it came out that way. But this is Gary going out there with a true love and passion for a story that I'm assuming he tried to pitch to other people and they didn't want to do it.
Mhm.
So it's like, fine, in true American fashion, fine. If we don't want to do it, I'm going to open up my own place with hookers and blackjack. Well, and second thought, forget the blackjack, as Bender would sit back and say. But
Exactly.
no, yeah, but this is the pursuing the American dream, and how can you not but appreciate an effort like this, and his good art style. His art style. When reading it, they sit back and say, "Oh, he's got an L. Williamson style of art," and I'm looking at it and go, and this is no offense, but I don't see L. Williamson there. I see Gary Cassell's fingerprints all over this. This is his style. This is his passion, his blood, sweat, and tears. And I'm very hesitant to try to compare his artwork to anybody else because of that. And he's been around in the biz, people might know. And IDW, of course, was one of his last jobs that he was doing. So, yeah, it'd be a lot more to pick his brain. Of course, I know Gary personally. So it'd be interesting to go and pick his brains a little bit more. Kind of an odd situation for me, because usually I'm just a co-host. This time I'm kind of a co-interviewer, you might say.
Yes. But I mean, look at this artwork. Look at all the detail he has just in these 4 panels alone.
Yeah. I mean, this is stuff that we've been screaming about. People scream, we don't want Cal art, or we don't want this garbage that they're passing off as quote unquote professional art, and this stilted, soulless computer animated art that people are out there. This brings me back and harkens not just the art, but what we read of the story, the comics I grew up with back in the 80s, 70s and the 80s, and even into the 90s, when I was actively buying comics. And it has that grittiness. If people like the Dark Knight Returns or how the gritty Batman, this has that grit to it. And the important thing is Gary's, unlike what they're trying to say with Madam Web, where they're trying to make a more realistic comic. It's like, how you make a comic movie? How are you doing that, really? Gary is actually doing something about real. This could really happen. This could be a man on the street, a man that was in that situation.
Let's also bring in some reality here too. He's bringing his experience as a combat medic.
Gary has worn many hats in his life.
So he knows how someone in John's mindset thinks, how they react to different situations.
Right. And being that we're dealing with a man who was wounded and lost a limb in battle, and him being a combat medic that he is, he obviously he knows, and people that he's dealt with. Gary, all I can sit back and say, I mean, we're sounding like a damn PBS. For the tears that you have for contributing to our, it sounds like that, but this is a great opportunity to help back something and feel good about it. And I had no hesitations but to open my wallet book and spend my allowance, and yes, I get an allowance on this book, what we're going to be seeing. And of course, I put the joke in there. This is not comic book authority approved. This will be good, hardcore, get your hands dirty type of storytelling.
And while we await the arrival of Gary, let's go ahead and hear in his own words why Vindicated Inc. is coming to be.
A former US Army combat medic, Gary has spent much of his career creating military art, but not to be pigeonholed, he has shown his versatility by working on horror and sci-fi comics like End Time and the comic tie-in for Xbox's hit game Alan Wake. He has a natural knack for comic art. He's the Al Williamson of our generation, says Tom Watts, senior writer at IDW. Ted Adams, CEO of IDW, calls Gary a beast when it comes to drawing. Even IDW's Chris Ryle has referred to Gary as the consummate comic artist that they say doesn't exist anymore. This year, through his own company, Hazmat Studios, and with IDW, he is releasing the new movie tie-in graphic novel, Iron Sky. And right now, he's going to tell us all about yet another project, Vindicated Incorporated. Gary, what makes this story different from all the other stories?
In our story, you don't have a character who has any special powers. He's not rich. He's not an expert with technology. Instead, he's a soldier, Delta Force, Elite Forces operator, who loses his legs.
Why Seattle? Why not a city closer to home or a fictitious city?
I'm more of a fan of Marvel, where they have the characters existing in real cities with the same problems that people that live in those cities, experience. So it makes it more identifiable, more realistic, and believable.
Why the word vindicated? And what is Vindicated Incorporated, or who are they?
The original definition of vindicated is to avenge oneself. And there's that meaning in the story, is that he's avenging the people of the city against a blight that he really sees, that there's this underworld that's destroying the city. And he sees the corruption even in the police department. And he wants to put a stop to it. What
was the inspiration for it all?
The inspiration really comes from the fact that I was in the military, and I have a great passionate love for my fellow soldiers that have been wounded, and really at the heart of this story, I wanted to make a hero of a character who is, by society's definition, disabled or handicapped.
Why Kickstarter?
The fact is every time I see people on Kickstarter, they really are seriously involved with the projects. These people really care, and there's a huge community within Kickstarter who are constantly looking for stuff like this, and they really love comic books. And I love people who love comic books. I'm a comic book artist.
Where is the money going?
It's a lot of work, and so it's going to be paying everybody that's physically working on the book, and as well as paying for some of the perks that we're going to be giving to the contributors, like the hats, t-shirts, etc.
Gary, good luck with the project, and I'm looking forward to receiving my complimentary copy.
Well, I look forward to signing it for you there, Duncan, and hey, nice accent.
So there we go, from Gary's own words on what Vindicated Inc. is about. And again, I had the honor of being able to read a couple of the chapters, and it's definitely something worth backing. I don't know how many times I could say that, but it definitely is. You're muted, Baron.
Thank you. I mean, I hate the fact that we only were able to see a couple because, like, come on, I want to read more. Don't stop. But
the way it sucks you in right away, it's like, no, I want more. Give me more.
Right, exactly. Something I look for in a story or a comic, a book. If it can grab you and, on a preview like that and make you want to experience the story more, it did its job. It really did do its job. So I hope people...
That's what a good writer does. They suck you in right away.
Right. And just like they said back about the artwork, how many of us, again, I'll go back to that. How many of us been complaining about the sloppy looking art that we've been getting? And, we rag on Cal art, which I can't stand. And the others, like, this is what you're passing off as art. I mean, I've known comic book artists and been amazed by what they can do. And then I see this, it's like, why are you focusing on these people instead of going for, Gary Cassell, Gordon Cassell is still working out there, but some of these others with their excellent work. And if we have to go this way, let us go this way.
You know, I look at that artwork in there, and I see how much talent Gary has.
Hmm.
From every little bit of detail to the dialogue that you had the back and forth between John and
Hmm.
your antagonist.
Hmm. His cohort that he has,
Mm-hmm.
even the inner monologue that you get, and
Yeah.
which in and by itself really helps build that character. As they say, that's bad for movie telling, but it's excellent for comics.
It is because it lets you know what the character's mindset is, what the character is thinking at that particular moment.
Hmm. Right. What is the method of the madness, you might say? And I love that. And you can identify a little bit more with the character. And just seeing what I've seen, this is what the hero story is about. He's got struggles. He has issues. He's fighting to overcome those as well as what he deems as his mission. He's fighting basically society, the corrupt society that's out there. Basically, it's him versus the world, and what becomes this? What will happen to him? Will they discover who he is? And if they do find out who he is, what do they do about it? Will he be
He's
hailed as a hero or a criminal,
Yep.
a thug?
He's dealing with his own PTSD from combat.
Hmm.
You
Exactly.
find out in this first issue exactly why he lost his leg.
Hmm. And his reaction to seeing his own limb. I
Mhm.
mean, what a horrifying, it brings these things close to home with your hero of what they're suffering from. And maybe someone who has had that experience, they can identify, oh yeah, I was in an accident and I remember them taking me out and then taking my arm out and, having people that didn't make it along with me, and that itself, survivor's guilt, are
Mhm.
and the other senses of loss. So I think this is going to, I will warn people who might be veterans in this. Take a couple deep breaths before reading it, because it might hit you in certain ways. It might take you a little bit more to read this story, but I think they'll even find that this is a path to help healing.
Mhm.
And
Indeed, it
give
is.
people like us who would never were in that situation to understand a little bit more of what these people have gone through.
Yeah. What they deal with as a combat veteran,
Right.
and
And
hello to Pop Culture Mechanic. Good to see you, Pop.
there he is, one of our favorite Canadians, eh?
Yeah.
I mean,
As a
before
ma-
this, one of my, oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, as a matter of fact, I will go ahead and greet those of you who are currently here. Of
Mhm.
course, the first one here was Baron, who says, "Is this comic code approved?" No, it is not.
Ooh, one of the worst
And
things that
that,
ever happened to comics.
but that's a good thing that it's not comics code approved.
Hmm.
And of course,
I don't even know if that's a thing anymore, to be honest.
I don't know. We also have Anonymous. Do, 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 do. Anonymous.
I
Do,
not.
do, do,
Doot,
do.
doot, doot, doot.
We also have T-Gap Steve, and we will get to the latest episode of Beverly Hills 414 in just a moment.
Mhm.
Deleted scenes, good to see you. Lady V Elements, hello to you.
Howdy, howdy.
Anti-derivative Jill, good to see you. DJ Ronnie G, good to see you too, brother.
Nerd.
And of course, the aforementioned Pop Culture Mechanic. Good to see you again, Pop.
Hmm. And we got one more person that just popped in too. Mr. Polly from Fandomology. There we go. Hey guys.
Good Good to see you, Paul.
Good to see you, Paul. But yeah, I mean, before this came, before I saw this, one of my favorite comics that dealt with war was one that was written in the 80s called The Nam. It was during a time that you had that resurgence of interest in the Vietnam War, and more importantly, the soldiers, the soldiers that were treated so badly when they came home because they were in such a unpopular war. And again, it was bringing that human side about it all. Chuck Dixon actually did write some of that, bringing the Punisher in it. But before, I'd say like the first 12 of the first year where you're going through the tour of the main antagonist, or protagonist, I mean, I think that was kind of gold on the outlook of what soldiers were going through in Vietnam. Now, of course, that's been how many years, and now we have our own, hell that soldiers went through. So
true. When you think about Afghanistan, you think about Iraq. Veterans of Desert Storm.
Right. And the fact that I hate to say there are people who are looking down again on that one, and even the people that fought in that war. So I don't think it's to any level of Vietnam, thank God. But the fact that you have people with that animosity out there is just sad, very sad.
It is. It's very sad.
So these
men and women, they signed up to protect our freedoms. They're risking their life and limb each and every day.
And it's not their fault that they get sent someplace that people don't like, because again, they're soldiers. It's their job. They're not, they can't complain about it. If they do something about it, like AWOL, whatever, well, that's prison term. Hello, Leavenworth, how you doing? So the fact that they persevere through all that, even if they're involved in something they personally do not agree with, but a lot of them realize, me signing up, me going in, there was this risk. So,
I mean, whenever I see someone in uniform, I don't care which branch of the armed forces it is, I thank them for their service. And I'll tell you all why. Because I was born with cerebral palsy. And as soon as the Marine recruiter who called me after I graduated high school heard me say, I have cerebral palsy, he said, thank you, have a good day. I thank folks for signing up, putting on the uniform to protect this country, because they were able to do something I was not able to do. Not because I didn't want to, but because of my disability.
And when the first Gulf War came out back in the 90s, seeing what was going on, I wanted to sign up. I wanted to, I was doing that, and I talked to my dad, and he actually talked me out of it. He goes, no, I don't want you joining up because I don't want you fighting for somebody else's war. And he was adamant about me not signing up, which is probably the reason why I did it. But I have to confess, I regret not doing it. There's, sorry, I happen to be a highway for cats. But yeah, it's, I regret that. And I remember when the recruiters came through, and I was a hefty boy, and they came through and they were talking to me, and I go, well, I'm a big boy. I'd be thrown into the fat cap, wouldn't I? He goes, yeah. I said, yeah, that's going to help keep me out, because those things are vicious. They really, you think basic training or boot camp is bad. When you get put into the fat camp, and I didn't want to start my career out that way. Plus, they always promised all these things. They talk, when I was talking about, I was in audio visual, doing media stuff. They go, oh, we could use people in the media. And it's like, so are you willing to put that in paper? Never trust a recruiter, folks. Never. Never. But other than that, I mean, these men and women that go out there, even in peacetime, they still see a lot of hell. they'll get called up to help out with situations, disasters and stuff, whether it's the National Guard or even active military or whatnot. It's even going through that is a hell.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you hear the expression "war is hell."
Mm-hmm.
That's what my uncle said about Vietnam. He didn't like to talk about it too much.
Mm-mm. A lot of soldiers didn't. Even World War II. I mean, basically, they went to war, they came back, and it's like never talked about it. It's like it's like they were away for a little while, and they just come back, try to get to get back in their old jobs, do their get into the swing of things, start their families, and give us the baby boom.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was the sad ones that were in the Korean War, the Forgotten War, where it's some guy comes back and it's like, oh, you were gone for a few years. Where were you? I was in Korea. Oh, so it's not, it's just they sometimes they're the first ones to get forgotten. Any soldier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because even people would give my dad a hard time because my dad was in the Coast Guard at the time of Vietnam before he went to the California Highway Patrol.
Yeah. And I tell you something, Coast Guard, you might laugh at Coast Guard, but they get in deep and dirty. In fact, I think it's even still now. When they have to do boarding operations for the Navy, and we're talking about out in Saudi, or the Saudi Arabia area, the Red Sea, all that. They have at least a couple of Coast Guard cutters out there, and they're the ones that lead the boarding operation because what are they good at doing? Boarding. They do that with intercepting boats trying to get into the United States with drugs, weapons, all that stuff, or other unpleasant things, and they're the ones that know it. So there were also some of them that were doing the boats up the rivers. They talk about the swift boat of the Navy, but there were Coast Guard doing that as well. So because someone was in the Coast Guard doesn't mean that they didn't see hell either.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is what people forget. And my dad defended the Coast Guard. Heck, even till the day he died, he still knew people who were still in the Coast Guard from his time there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's one of those that you work heavy at home, guarding your coast, and sometimes you get sent over someplace because they need someone who knows how to do this. And then you start finding that you're dodging bullets near a sand pit or something, And don't get yourself. They're in and around with Korea as well.
Yeah,
I mean, they're on edge out there. When you think about Coast Guard, there's the Korean Coast Guard, not Korean, but China Coast Guard that's going out there that's harassing the Filipinos and others, and now given orders that they can start using, instead of water cannons, real cannons.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, don't sniff at the Coast Guard people. That's they are truly a branch, and they can be pretty tough asses themselves.
Oh yeah, definitely. You say tough asses, but let's just say how they say it: hard ass.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. But you know me. They're tough, they're hard, and they got a job they got to do. So the only one right now that's untested is the Space Force. But I'm sure their day will come soon, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, it will. But right now we concentrate on the branches that we have: the Army, the Marines, the Navy, the Coast Guard.
Exactly.
But of course, I know T-Gab's waiting for us to get to the latest episode of Beverly Hills 414, so we're going to go ahead and do that. And
He's just sitting there on the floor like he has no care in the... Wait. Well, we got Mercantile. We got the Mercantile. We can do that again. Or 1-800 noob, and the 1-800 noob. Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff there. We can have talk about penguins. Yeah, penguin dome.
Penguin Dome. One penguin enters.
No, two penguins.
Then the other penguin. Hold on. Then the other penguin. Then the other penguin ambushes the one penguin who already entered. Why? Because the penguin who already entered wasn't looking where he was going. Did not suspect an ambush from this other penguin before it was too late. And then an all-out brawl ensued. They clashed through tables. They grabbed chairs, hit each other with chairs. They climbed ladders. It was a brawl, folks. Well, I'm just trying to picture either Losbeck or Punkwaddle climbing up ladders and having a WWE hardcore style match.
I would pay for that. I really would. Get on the phone with Walrus McMahon. He'll do it.
Walrus McMahon. Oh boy, isn't that a story in itself with McMahon?
Oh yeah. Amazing how time changes all across the board. But yeah, there we go. It's that was, of course, our very talented T-Gap Steve. Please give him a nice applause. Send the day old bagel his way. Show him that he is appreciated for what he's done.
The sole writer of Beverly Hills 414, kind of the J. Michael Straczynski, you might say.
Yeah. If J. Michael Straczynski was on his, down on his luck, yeah, exactly.
Wow, Baron. But as we wait for the arrival of our guest, I am going to go ahead and pull up an article here. First, checking to see if the box office numbers have been updated, and they have not.
Yeah, we could use a good laugh.
We're probably going to get one as soon as they're updated.
Oh, yeah. I mean, last week's was bad enough. Woof, the day. It's a sad.
And Losbeck says that Free Space 2 mod is great. And the Newtonian physics is possible, though I don't play that way.
Losbeck, I got one thing to sit back and ask, though. Serious question here. Absolutely. I see you playing I haven't sat down and watched it all the way through. I need to. But you're playing a Babylon 5 Star Fury game. I know they were going to try to put one out back in the day, but it got shelved. Where the heck did you get that? I want to go flying with Ivanova.
I just want to fly into Star Fury.
Mm-hmm. With Ivanova. There we go, Geek Tyrant.
So we had this article from Geek Tyrant, and it says Jim Henson's Labyrinth is returning to theaters in March. This was posted 23 hours ago. It's by Joey Parr.
Mm-hmm.
And it says Jim Henson's classic 1986 fantasy film Labyrinth is returning to theaters for a limited time in March. If you've never seen this film on the big screen, or you haven't seen it in a theater since you were a kid, you'll be able to experience that soon. The movie will be in theaters on March 6th and 10th. In the film, frustrated with babysitting on yet another weekend, Sarah, Jennifer Connelly, a teenager with an active imagination, summons the goblins to take her baby stepbrother away. When little Toby actually disappears, Sarah must follow him into a fantastical world to rescue him from the Goblin King, David Bowie. Guarding this castle is the labyrinth itself, a twisted maze of deception and populated with outrageous characters and unknown dangers. To get through it, in time to save Toby, Sarah befriends the goblins in hopes that their loyalty isn't just another illusion in a place where nothing is as it seems. The film is a dark fairy tale that is easily one of the most visually stunning films of its kind from the 1980s. If you want to grab tickets, you can see if it's playing in your area here and purchase them. So I thought that was a nice story to pick up on, because there are many fans of Labyrinth, and to get a chance to see that movie in theaters as it was meant to be seen, once again, it's worth it. It's just like going to a Fathom event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, as it goes, like they say about dark fairy tale, well, that's what a lot of fairy tales were dark. So it was, it was great to see something that reflected that. I mean, if you look at the core of even something like Cinderella or Snow White or Sleeping Beauty, there is that really dark layer that Disney worked overtime to not make look as horrible. That's horrible English, by the way. As the stories were, you take a look at Hans Christian Andersen and his story of the Little Mermaid. The Little Mermaid faded away at the end. She didn't find true love. These are warning stories, and right here again, this is one of them. So, great mythology. Of course, you got Jim Henson involved in it. He knows how to do storytelling. He knows what it's all about. We saw it in his other endeavors, like The Storyteller and other projects that he tried to do outside of the common Muppets. So, yeah.
And I just got an update from Gary. He had a power outage, and they just got it back on. So
there we go. Okay. He's going to respond. Gary who? No.
Come on, Baron. You've known me long enough to know I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, but I would have done it.
And Low Spec is saying that it's an open source made by fans for fans.
Ooh. And I'm a fan.
Yeah. I mean, it looks fun.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's the one thing that we were missing. A lot of stuff like that. DJ's got the on-release game. Sneaky. DJ Ronnie G is the type of person to do that. But yeah, I mean, Labyrinth, especially another thing too, to be able to watch the great late David Bowie out there playing the villain, the Goblin King. is well worth the price of admission, honestly.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I can't tell you how many times my sister rented the movie when we were
Mhm.
growing up, and I became a fan of it. And of course, became a fan of Jennifer Connelly and David Bowie.
Mm-hmm. Right. And yeah, I mean, that was the interesting thing about the 80s, too, is they were giving these people who are in music, and it's happened before, obviously, but gave them the opportunity to go out there and do acting. And that, of course, nothing new for David Bowie, Man Who Fell to Earth and others. But of course, you had like Gene Simmons doing Runaway as the villain. You had Mick Jagger doing, well, I can't remember the exact name of the movie that he had, but and there was science fiction fair. So they gave these people those opportunities. You found out there was more to them, and really, it's hard to see a lot of singers today that are able to do that. I mean, all we have to do is take a look at Lizzo in The Mandalorian and know that, yeah. It's just not. It's just not. It's not. This is just not right. And she ate Baby Yoda, by the way. They had to rescue him.
Okay, and I'm sending Gary a new link.
There we go. That way we don't have a missing link, like me.
You're not the missing link, Baird.
Oh, I
Cash
want
is
to
the
be
missing link today.
Okay, yeah, he's the missing link. Yeah. You are the weakest link. Goodbye. Yeah, here I am proselytizing against bears. No bears in my video game, please, and what they do to them.
And he's just waiting for his modem to operate.
Yeah.
And
The
he'll
good old
join
days.
as soon as it reconnects. But I had that same issue too before the show. I noticed some problems, so I told you, Baron, I'll be back.
Yeah. And kind of funny, I'm kind of noticing there's a little hanky-panky with mine going here. So it's like, is your leader up? Free Jack. Thank you so much. Free Jack. I knew it was Jack. It had a Jack in it, but I couldn't quite remember the full name. And I think Malcolm McDowell was also in that one.
I think he was, but
Yeah.
Don't quote me on it.
Yeah. Of course, he's been in so many things as villains. Even though I think one of his best roles that Malcolm McDowell had was Time After Time, where he played H.G. Wells. Opposite David Warner as Jack the Ripper.
Mm-hmm. He's a quality actor. Let's face it.
Mm-hmm.
Even as Soren, he was that kind of villain that so many you go, oh, this guy's desperate to get back to the Nexus.
Mm-hmm. Obsession.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly how was able to. You could almost be sympathetic to his desires, but repulsed by him at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And we won't even talk about Caligula that he was roped into doing. Oh, God.
True. Even though when we were talking about that article about the release of it, the re-release, and then part of that top 10 best, top 10 worst movies of 2023, and I couldn't pronounce it to save my life that day, and it's like, come on, Mike. But that's where you got to laugh at yourself.
Oh yeah, I constantly laugh at myself. I'm my own source of amusement, folks. I really am.
Just watch me play a game stream. I'm a source of amusement of how many times I die.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see you out there with that 1987 Yugo on your next endeavor on Mad Max.
1987 Yugo. Oh, Yugo, you Baird.
Well, it's not a Trevant. It's not a Trevant, so I mean,
yeah. Of course, we too had some sad news to talk about. this afternoon. Let me get the link out there for
Oh,
everybody.
thank you. Mm-hmm.
And I will pull it up here in just a few seconds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the interwebs is wonky for everybody today.
All right. So we have this article from TV Insider,
Mm-hmm.
and it's written by Callie Stang, and it says Randy Sparks died. New Christie Minstrels founder and TV star was 90.
Mm-hmm.
Grammy winner and singer songwriter Randy Sparks, who founded the folk music ensemble New Christie Minstrels, died on February 11th at age 90. The musician in an assisted living facility in San Diego. Okay, that sentence didn't make any sense right there. Was it just me, or?
Yeah, well, you know how people write nowadays.
All right, it says Sparks, renowned as an American musician and songwriter, made significant contributions to the revival of folk music in the 1960s with the formation of the New Christie Minstrels. The music group, best known for its melodic harmonies and folk pop sound, was formed in 1961 with Sparks leading the way. The New Christie Minstrels achieved remarkable success with hit songs including Today, Denver, Green Green, which Sparks co-wrote with future Eve of Destruction vocalist Barry McGuire.
Mm-hmm.
The New Christie Minstrels were also a mainstay on television between 1962 and 1963, appearing on 26 episodes of The Andy Williams Show on NBC and 8 episodes of ABC's Hootenanny. The group even got its own NBC show in the summer of 1964 titled Ford Presents the New Christie Minstrels. In 1963, they won a Grammy Award for Best Performance by a Chorus for their debut album, presenting the New Christie Minstrels. This record went on to achieve a 2-year run on the Billboard chart. And that's impressive, especially back then.
Mm-hmm.
Sparks was formidable presence in the folk music scene. He wrote songs for other artists in the music industry and took part in various musical projects throughout his career. He helped boost the careers of Steve Martin, John Denver, and Kenny Rogers, who went on to be the double bass player for the New Christie Minstrels in 1966. Never knew
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yep.
Around the mid 60s, Sparks sold his interest in New Christie Minstrels for $2.5 million. He moved to rural California, where he started a 30-year collaboration with Rural Lives and opened a nightclub called Ledbetter's. Come on, Mike, speak. In Los Angeles. Sparks began his career in the 1950s, performing as a solo folk singer in California by playing in coffee houses and clubs before his major success in New Christie Minstrels. Sparks is survived by his sons, Kevin and Cameron, his daughters, Melinda and Amanda, his sister, Naomi Allen, and his 4 grandchildren.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was because, growing up for me, I grew up on a lot of folk music, the Kingston Trio and the like, which of course those guys were giants of their day as well. And sadly, with Bobby Shane passing a couple years back, none of the originals are around anymore, sadly. And it was just nice knowing that Randy Sparks was still with us. And when it comes around, when I talk about storytelling, being able to convey myth, legend, music is one of those things as well. That does it. The word folk music, it basically means it's something that is, it can be regional or such, but people don't know who originally wrote it. Usually, that was what the original intent was. It's just something that's been around and passed from generation to generation. Something like Greensleeves. No one knows who wrote Greensleeves, but that tune was used for so many different songs and hymns throughout the ages, but no one knows who actually wrote that the first time. When they came out with the Land of Giants and Tall Tales, again, it was taking American folklore, especially with the Land of Giants, and talking about that. When people sit back and say, "Oh, we have no culture, we have no folklore, we're a country that's so small, young, and all that," it's like age has nothing to do with it. We have people like Paul Bunyan, and more than likely was a real man. And of course, as time went along, just like in true folk fashion, the story got more grandiose and grandiose to where he was this giant of a man with a blue ox. John Henry, I mean, you talk about a folklore story of America's, which was celebrating a black man. John Henry was a black man. And it's the battle between man and machine that was all about. And we'd see that with Captain Kirk, especially with the Ultimate Computer and a few other things. So El Camino Real, talking about the problems, the war that was going on in California, and how the writer was sending a message, and it's about the horse and the rider, and how the horse was noble. The horse was just as much involved in the story as the rider, as it went up El Camino Real. One of my favorite songs they ever did. And the only way you can do that was a full-fledged chorus. And that's the other thing about it. He somehow, this folk music, choral. But I mean, like a chorus and such. So, yeah, when people start asking what were things that inspired me about legends and storytelling and the like, Randy Sparks and the New Christie Minstrels, and the people that were all involved in that were a major factor, just hearing these stories over and over again. And it's sad. I don't think people tell these stories anymore because they want to hold on to this lie that America does not have any folk tales. America doesn't have any culture in that area. Yet,
I can remember in elementary school reading the Tall Tales.
Mm-hmm. Right. And even with when we're watching Tombstone and all that, how much the cowboys have become tall tales. I mean, basically what we view them as and what they really were are two different things. And that's because you had the dime store novelists and such, and the tall tales that were told all around these men and women as well. And, what is fact and what is fiction? They are just as much folklore and legend as they were real people. Mm-hmm. So, don't let anybody sit back and tell you that just because we're a nation that's 2.5 centuries old as a nation, not counting the time that we were a colony, and let's not forget the Native Americans, American Indian folklores that we have all around out there. This continent and this country and former colony had tons of them because that's what builds. I mean, all you have to do is take a look at the modern myth of the Mothman.
And real quick, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our guest of honor, host of Pop Culture Minefield and creator of Vindicated Inc., Gary Cassell.
Hey, Gary.
Welcome, Gary.
Or should I say, guys. Hey, Gary. There we go. Like your sister says.
Enduring the problems of today and finally get it going. So here I am.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to be with us this afternoon, Gary.
You did. I'm assuming you got all my messages, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Good.
I didn't. But he did.
That is one thing I try to do when I have a guest on Pop Talk is I try to keep Twitter open, or if they're on Discord, that's usually the only time I try to keep Discord open, just in case they send a message and we can keep tabs.
Righto. Right, mate. Right. So what's going on, guys?
Well,
Wow.
not much. We were going through a couple of articles here, and while we waited for your internet to come back, and
we're just talking about the passing of Randy Sparks of the New Christy Minstrels. New Christy Minstrels, which was one of my favorite bands and such. Group, not bands, but groups out there.
What's the name of the group?
New Christy Minstrels.
Never heard of them.
You never heard of them? Oh, okay. Yeah, Randy Sparks. They had a lot of people go be part of that group. They were listing off. Steve Martin was part of them. Kenny Rogers, John Denver. Yeah, and of course that's where we got Barry McGuire. Barry McGuire was with that group, and of course he went on to do Evil Destruction. As a
I've never heard of them.
Oh wow, I'm surprised actually. But
and who's Steve Martin?
Gary, you're okay. You're okay.
I've had Kenny Rogers chicken. It was really good. For those who don't remember,
now you gotta
Kenny
go to
Rogers
Asian
had
to
a
get
restaurant. So,
well, it's good to see you there, Gary. It's been a long time, and I've been meaning to get back on your show. What time is it on now? Your Saturday show?
Well, for Saturdays, it's 3:00 in the afternoon. We call it Saturday afternoon matinee, and we talk mostly about movies. I wanted to focus on being proactive and positive because it started feeling after a while that a lot of our shows, not just pop cultures, but the whole group was getting kind of negative. And all we wanted to talk about was the negative stuff. And it's like, I got tired of that. And so Keith and I agreed that we kind of wanted to talk about some positive stuff. What's better than to talk about some classic TV shows or movies?
Right. Exactly. We need to show that positive side, show what we're fighting for.
That's what we've done here. I said to Darren, I said to Cash, I said, I don't want to focus on the same story each and every episode of Pop Talk. It gets tiresome after a while.
What it is sometimes. And like we do that for TGIF. TGIF is the day when we go over the latest news or do interviews. And it's Lady V. What's up, Lady V? Hey, my buddy Stephen is here.
Yeah, we had a guest not too long ago. Great guest.
So, Gary, we are here today to talk about Vindicated Inc., how you got everything all started, and what you're looking forward to with this graphic novel.
One thing for sure, I'm looking forward to finishing the book. I'm hoping that we can continue on through and get to our goal of it'll be close to $6,500 because that'll be the portion for Richard. So Richard can do his one chapter, and his chapter is called Out of the Past, and it deals with a flashback. And it's not like you're like a PTSD driven flashback. It's a flashback in that he is trying to explain to his partners that he's working with. This is a team of disabled veterans who are taking on the criminal underworld of Seattle. And they are at a point where they have to discuss this one person, this one bad guy. And there's a history between our hero and this bad guy. And so he has to explain what that history is. And so we get this flashback, and it explains a lot about the main character, because a lot of the stuff I leave on the surface, he's a haunted person, he's broken, and he's almost literally haunted. He has a 12-year-old boy that's a ghost that haunts him. And you are wondering, as the reader, is he really haunted, or is this in his head? And in the flashback scene, you understand what that's all about. and I can't tell you anything else.
Please
about
don't.
that.
I want to read it. I want to read it because I found that kind of intriguing. It's like, wait, what's this? What's this kid? And it's like, is this his imagination? What is it? So it definitely grabbed me. It's like, I want to know more.
The 3 chapters are available, or 2 chapters. There are 3 chapters available, but only 2 on the campaign. If you scroll down a little bit, you can see the links to download and read 2 of the chapters. Right. And the chapter, God judges his heroes by their scars, you meet the ghost. And he pretty much explains that he believes it's in his head. Mm-hmm. And in that one scene, and I won't tell you any more than that, but you go read it. I'm offering people a chance to actually read what I'm doing here. And Mike Barron said it, that nobody does comic books like this. This is like a movie. And originally, when I started working with Kurt Yeager, the actor who signed off on his likeness for the character, he's the prosthetic wearing stunt actor who's been a lot like NCIS. He's been on Sons of Anarchy. He played a character with a prosthetic leg. He's been on a lot of things he's been in so many of these shows. He usually plays a military veteran who's lost his leg. But the fact is, he just finished getting a big role in a movie. In fact, hold on, let me get the name of that movie. I forgot the name of it right now. I think it's a vampire film. I have not seen it yet. What is that movie called? He was in Quarry on Cinemax. He was the main villain for season 1. And Kurt and I are friends, and Kurt agreed to here, I'll share my screen for a second so you can see what I'm talking about.
Not a problem.
Just for a second, we can go back to your screen. There we go.
All right, I will bring it up.
This is Kurt Yeager. Very good friend of mine. And he signed off, along with some other film and TV actors have signed off on their likenesses because I wanted this to feel like a movie in your hand. You're watching a movie in comic book format. Sunrise is the new film he just did. He plays the corrupt sheriff in the film. And he's above the line, but he's been in a lot of stuff. NCIS, Quantum Leap, SEAL Team. In fact, he played the old buddy of the main character who lost his leg in combat. He's just, he's a great actor. And get a good close-up of this guy. You'd never know that he has a prosthetic.
No.
That's his this leg. This leg's a prosthetic leg. I watched him take out a chunk of wall one night. We went out drinking in Hollywood, and he was drunk already. We're on a TV show. It was a national TV show for an interview about this book, and he had too much to drink, and he says, I said, how good are you with that leg? And he says, here, I'll show you. And he took out a chunk of the wall in the studio, and I'm like, oh my God, we got to get out of here before we get in trouble. But he's a great guy, good looking dude, and he plays the part of the main character in the story, John Russell. And John Russell is a name that goes back historically. One of my closest friends that I grew up with, he was like my big brother. He protected me a lot. And I don't know how to say it, he kind of tutored me in sports. And we can go back to your screen, Mike.
All right.
And John Russell was his name. And also, John Russell is the main character in the movie Hombre, played by Paul Newman. And you don't find out his name until the end of the film. And that was my dad's favorite movie with Paul Newman. And John Russell, my friend, was my dad's favorite friend I had. He really admired and liked John. And I'm still good friends with John to this day. And he knows that I named the character after him. But there, if you scroll down, you can see one of the pages. I threw up some of the artwork. The book is in black and white. The covers are color, and there'll be color pinups occasionally coming out. But the book feels better as a noir story, as a black and white story.
I was gonna say I really like it as it is.
Well,
I
I
think
did
it
it
adds
that way.
more gravity that way. And
We test colored a full chapter, and it just didn't feel right. It felt better as a straight black and white book because I believe in putting forth really strong artwork and a lot of lighting. You notice all the lighting. I use noir lighting.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it works better with a black and white in the aspect. And even when you come around to certain films or TV shows, they look better black and white than they would ever look color. I mean, can you imagine the original Twilight Zone in color?
No,
just-
but Psycho. I really like the feel of the book in black and white. So the pinups and covers will be in color, but when it comes to the internal sequential art, it'll always be in black and white. I don't ever see me doing, because I plan to do 3 books. Each book will be 155 pages. This is, I've gotten several people write in after they read this saying that this shot right here of him coming through the glass is their favorite part of the book. Because I show him opaque and then he's popping holes through the glass so he can break through more easily. But what I like about this scene is you notice I establish he's right-handed in this shot. Every angle, and then suddenly the next page, when he goes up to the wall, because the wall he goes up to is on his right, he does a shoulder shift. And he's firing left-handed now, which is something that you learn to do in the military, especially if you're in infantry units. You learn how to shift shoulders because you never know what side you're going to have to switch on. Also, if you're going up or down stairs when you're doing CQB, you have to do a shoulder shift depending on what angle the stairs are and where you're aiming. So, because like if you're going up the stairs, like you're going upstairs, it's going to go around to the right, and your door's up to the right, you're going to shift shoulders to the left hand. And also, the gore is in black and white. So when you see the blood, it's just ink. I felt like the violence in the book, when you see blood, I didn't want it to be gory. I wanted it to be realistic, but I didn't want it to be gory.
Less is more type of thing.
Yeah.
You don't want the shock value, but you want to get the point across.
Yep. Now, also, when you notice when I draw my characters, I use very stark shading. The only time you'll ever see me using cross hatching is with skies. And I just don't like cross hatching for anything else. And there's the cover. By the way, the cover art that you see there, that drawing in the video cover thumbnail, that's actually, I penciled that, and it was inked by Drew Moss from IDW. And I work with a lot of serious, really good, legit comic artists. And Richard Bonk's one of those. When you scroll back up, that was him in the ball cap. Richard Bonk is a DC Marvel artist. He's worked with a lot of publishers. And he and I have been friends for about 20 years. And we have worked together on several occasions. And we're good friends in real life. I've gone down and stayed at his house in Florida. He lives in Panama City. It's a beautiful place down there, to visit him and his wife. And he's an amazing artist. I consider him better than me when it comes to doing comic art, because he is a traditional graduate of Joe Kubert's school of comic art. He is a legit, genuine comic artist. I'm an illustrator. There's a world of difference. He loves my artwork, but the fact is I was not trained traditionally to draw comic books. Yes, I read how to draw the Marvel way, but that's not how I draw. I draw like an illustrator. Very realistic. Also, I don't care if I have smooth lines. I don't go for the smooth lines. I like it looking like it was art. My buddy, another great artist, is not Drew Struzan. He's my teacher. He's my mentor. But Drew Blair, who's a famous airbrush artist. He's been on the cover of Airbrush Artist magazine like multiple times. I consider him probably the greatest living airbrush artist out there. Like, about 10 years ago, he says, "You can come down here to Florida, man, and I'll teach you how to paint like me." And I'm like, "I don't want to paint like you. I like the way I do my artwork. It looks like it was artwork. Yours looks like a photograph." And it really does. I challenge people to look at some of his paintings and figure out if it's a photo or if it's a painting. That's how good it is.
Well,
Go look him up. Drew, DRU. Fuck, I'll do it for you.
okay.
And Drew is just one of those. I love talking about my artist friends, by the way, because here's a great example. All right, open image in a new page. No, it's too small. He has a school down in Florida now. You can go there. Let me share my screen.
Okay.
And just, he's an amazing artist. This guy is incredible. There you go.
All right.
And the first work that I saw was this one right there, the B-1 bomber he did. And I already knew who he was before we became friends. His military artwork is some of the best stuff you'll ever see. Look at that.
That's incredible.
So that looks like a photograph. You're absolutely right. It is stunning.
Yeah, his portraits, and he gives classes down in Florida. Look at that. That looks like a photograph. It's
Yes,
it's an airbrush painting that he did. And but we became friends because he and I were Star Trek artists. And I'm the only Star Trek artist that was ever commissioned to do actual battles from Star Trek. I did 2 paintings. I did the painting of Narendra 3 and the Battle of Wolf 359. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that.
I saw them. You showed me those. You were talking about the fat guy that came up with the poster and said, "Hey, that's me."
Oh yeah, the weird dude. It's so scary.
Yeah, and the one that weirded you out the most.
And that convention, that Star Trek convention, was like the last one I went to for years because they had security, Klingon security. And those guys were the most annoying people I'd ever met in my life, walking around speaking Klingon all the time and yelling. And I was just like, it was stressing me out. And I finally, I stopped going to Star Trek conventions because of the security guys. And Wizard was the first convention I did since 1995. And that was back in 2012. And they were like, "We'd love to have you there." And I said, "Well, I'm not going to come if you have those Star Trek security guys." You went, "No, this isn't a Star Trek convention. This is a regular comic convention." I went, "Oh, okay. So they're not going to be there, right?" You swear up and down there's no Klingon security, because I did not want to ever do a convention again because of those guys. They were so annoying. And I'm sure they're the greatest guys in the world, but that was freaking me out.
Yeah.
And
they get into it.
They get a little too much for me. And I'm a very grounded person, as silly and funny as you know I can be. I'm a very grounded person. I'm grounded in reality, which is why it's so funny. Like when you look at all the stuff that I've written, even when I write science fiction, it's grounded in military reality. And that's the way my brain works. I write realistic stuff. Even my comedies are realistic, grounded stories that just are funny because of the things people say and do. I don't write slapstick. I don't write silly. And people are like, "As much as you love fantasy, why don't you ever write fantasy?" I said, "I'm not interested in writing fantasy. I like writing stories about people." And all my stories, every single one of my stories is character driven. And we have a book, we have a graphic novel that's half done that Richard Bonk and I did together. I wrote it and he penciled it and I was inking it, and we got half the book done and we had to take a break. And we'll eventually get around to doing that one again. It's called Transmission. It's part of the Earth Wars series. Total science fiction, but it's military science fiction. Ultra realistic. And again, we have celebs that are in it. People who sign their likeness agreement say, "Yeah, put us in your book. We'll like that." I find shit like that fun. It makes it a little more like a movie or a TV show. And you going to say something, Mike?
I was just going to ask you, what were your inspirations for some of your stories? You know, you've mentioned Vindicated Inc., but also code name for Geronimo. What was your
Code Word
inspiration for that
Geronimo.
story? Yeah, sorry.
Code Word Geronimo is a graphic novel I did with Captain Dale Dye and his wife, Julia. They are my bosses. I work for Warriors. Well, it used to be Warriors Inc. and Warriors Publishing. It is now one company. It is Warriors Global. And you can join and become a member of Warriors Global and read some of the posts from Dale Dye himself. And it's an incredible thing in this life, having worked with this man for almost 20 years. I started working for him 18 years ago. And I began working him for the very reason to answer your question, is I'm inspired by great war films. I'm inspired by stories about gritty, realistic people. When you go back and you look at some of the things that inspired me, you can just watch our Saturday show or our Military Monday show. And I'm talking over the last couple months about the movies that inspired me with Vindicated. Rolling Thunder is one in particular, with William Devane and Tommy Lee Jones, that came out in the 70s. And back before Tommy was a star, it's his first major starring role. And back when he still had a unibrow. He looked like Bert from Sesame Street. And it's a story about a combat veteran who is held as a POW, and him and his buddy come back. They're released and trying to get his life back together again. And he gets robbed by some bad guys, and in the process, they cut his hand off to torture him. They put his hand in what do you call it? In the drain.
Garbage disposal.
Yeah. And he gets a little hook and he sharpens it, and he goes out to have a little combat revenge on these guys. And that film was a huge inspiration. We just did yesterday Tombstone, which was another huge inspiration of Vindicated. In fact, in book 2, there are 2 specific scenes that are distinctly homages to Tombstone. And I'm moved by those kinds of characters, strong male characters that it's not the machismo. It's basically just being men doing things that men have to do. And those kinds of things inspire me. And that's what Vindicated is about, because really, this is a guy who didn't set out to do something for a real reason in Vindicated. He's angry. He's angry because he's caught up in the med board process, which is a nightmare for veterans. He's still active duty technically, but when you are in the med board process, you're nothing. You're trapped in limbo, and your career and your life is put on hold. And so being a soldier is even harder. And so he's dealing with this military problem. And he gets frustrated, and he goes out one night and happens upon the robbery of a convenience store. And all of a sudden, all of his anger is worked out on these criminals. And it becomes so violent at one point that the guy that was being robbed is begging him to stop beating the criminal because it's that brutal. And he does. He stops and he realizes, oh, wow. But then when he gets outside in the van and they leave, he's like, oh my God, that felt so good. I want to do that again.
He got a lot of that pent-up frustration out.
Yeah, it was a release for him.
Yeah, and so he starts doing it because that's what it starts out as, is this means for him to do, because there's a saying that's used in the book, and it's based on the saying that a bomb isn't a bomb until it explodes. Okay. And I changed it to say a bomb isn't a bomb till it explodes, and a soldier isn't a soldier unless he's doing soldier shit. And so it's when he's doing soldier shit that he's happy. And so, and this touches on the subject of war junkies, because this is something that happens, especially in the modern military, more often than it used to. These guys who really, that's their rush, is going into combat. I watch interviews of this one dude. He freaks me out sometimes. He's because he's the kind of guy that you don't mind having him in your unit, but you wouldn't want to have him as a leader because he's too hooked on the rush. And guys like that can get other guys killed because they're quick to rush in without thinking first. And and don't get me wrong, I mean, I admire the guy, but I would not follow him. He's not somebody I would follow. I want someone that's smart leading me. And so John starts going through this thing, and then all of a sudden, and it's in, if you watch the trailer, it's in the trailer, it says he realizes that he's having an impact on society around him for what he's doing. And people are kind of like it. And this is something they touched on with Boondock Saints, which is kind of also another little slight inspiration because I love the movie Boondock Saints. No, there's no scene in my book where he kills a cat. That's a joke. You have to have seen Boondock Saints to understand.
I unfortunately haven't. I have not.
I have to watch it now.
It's one of the funniest scenes in the film. It really is. And this was originally meant to be a movie because that was what Kurt and I were working on together. But then I realized, trying to get this funded as a film is going to be next to impossible. I could do a graphic novel. And I started 10 years ago. But the problem is life happens, and I had to raise a kid and do work to survive, and it got put on the back burner. And this year I decided this is probably the best time I'm ever going to have to finish this project and the other book that Richard and I were doing, Transmission. And I'm going to try to finish both those books this year.
So do you hope that this book could turn into a movie with the connections you have?
Oh, yeah. In fact, that's part of, because Kurt Yeager and my other partner, Paul Reynolds, they are partners on the film side of it. And our agreement is that Kurt has first right of refusal. If somebody wants to option it as a film, and we've already discussed it, because Script Doctor is my senior editor on this. You guys know who Script Doctor is.
Oh, yeah, he's good.
And his plan is to option us and start trying to pitch it as a film. And once the book is done, and he's going to option it. And again, the first thing that has to be understood by anybody that wants to look at it is that Kurt Yeager has the first right of refusal to play the main character. Because I wrote this character for him.
Would you want to see, you're more in line wanting to see this as a movie than say a limited series where you can actually delve in a little bit deeper, where a movie is a little bit more compact?
Well, there are 3 planned books. I mean, I want more books even after that, but I'm going to do the first 3 books. And the first 3 graphic novels, each one 155 pages each, is meant to be like a full movie. And it continues the story arc or the characters too. And there is a greater arching story arc from book 1 to book 2 to book 3. And the entire thing is, the first 2 books are dealing with the main criminals in Seattle. And then book 3 expands in the direction. I don't want to tell people where it's going, because in this book, you notice there's this one guy that's hiding in the shadows that's manipulating things. Like with his psychotherapist, he tells his psychotherapist, hey, even if John passes, he fails. Do you understand me? And why is he doing that? And we get hints of that through book 1. Book 2, it becomes a little more obvious. And then, it becomes blatantly obvious what's going on. And I don't want to say what it is, but I will tell you that this is going to grow. Vindicated is going to become more than just a vigilante in a city. It's going to grow into something that's going to go international. And I have a planned book called Pilgrim, which is the British version of Vindicated. And in Pilgrim, a friend of mine is an actor over in Britain. He was in the BBC movie Colosseum: Gladiator's Tale. Okay. He's a limey actor, and he signed his likeness agreement for that book when I finally get around to doing it. And that one is really kind of like, I don't know, it's MI6 versus Get Carter.
Okay.
Because I'm a big fan I love the original film Get Carter with Michael Caine. The Stallone one's okay.
Great movie.
I like old British crime films. And Pilgrim is about a guy that's a lot like John here. He's a SAS operator. In fact, you meet him in the 3-book trilogy. He helps John, and he worked with John in the Middle East. And so he takes his skill set to do what John's doing in London, to take on organized crime in London. And Code Word Geronimo is available on Amazon. Those are only old copies. If you want to get the new edition, you have to wait until Dale Dye's company, Warriors Global, publishes it. I've done new artwork, new cover for Code Word Geronimo.
And I'm waiting for that one. I can't wait to get that one too.
It's on the back burner because IDW was not clear. They turned the rights back over to me. And of course, when you turn the rights over to me, I turn that over to my partners, which is Dale Dye and John Del Vecchio, Doug Esposito. We're all partners. And John Del Vecchio is New York Times best-selling author of 13th Valley, the greatest Vietnam War book ever written. He's not only a close friend of mine, he's a business partner. And we've done a lot of work together. In fact, he was upset with me because I didn't ask him to write the introduction to this book. And I said, John, I love you, man, but it takes you 2 hours to describe 60 minutes. I said, you're the most long-winded, and he laughs every time I say that. I said, you're the most long-winded dude I've ever met. And you don't know how to truncate anything. And he wrote the afterword to the book you had in your hands there, Code Word Geronimo.
Which is
beautiful.
Several pages.
Have you read what he wrote?
Yes,
He really breaks it down. He is a historian and an amazing author. But I wanted to go after someone that's more in the comic field.
That's a big chunk of writing in there.
Yeah, that's all his writing. And John and I have been friends for 20 years, and very good guy. I love him. It's going to break my heart. He's like in his late 70s now, and I'm afraid because like Dale Dye and these guys are in their late 70s now. And I'm like, what am I going to do when they start dropping off? Because these are some of my closest friends. But I like being around warriors. I've always been that way. I cherish being around soldiers and stuff. And when you look at the list of my closest friends, I have a lot of civilian friends, but the fact is a bulk of my friends are military. And I think there's a reason for that because they understand me probably better than anybody, and I understand them.
When you're writing your characters, do you draw not just from your own personal experience, but also their experience?
Big time. In fact, I would say that John Russell is based on 3 people. And 2 of them are combat buddies of mine, combat vet buddies. And the personality is mine. But the skill set and the things that he does are absolutely based on 2 of my friends. And it's not the first time I've ever done that. St. Thomas is based off of my old friend, Vietnam War veteran, George Arntz. I don't know, whatever happened to him. He just sort of disappeared one day in my life, and it broke my heart because he kind of lost it, and he just sort of wandered off into the world. I don't know whatever happened to him. And that kind of happens sometimes to old warriors. They just kind of disconnect. But I put a lot of my veteran buddies into my stories and things. In fact, Bill, one of the main characters in the story, who's a disabled veteran in the story, is John's partner in fighting crime. All the guys that are fighting crime in this are disabled vets. And the line I use in the book is almost a throwaway joke. He tells a cop, he says, I don't consider myself disabled. I consider myself enabled. And it's a scene where Shane Moore, who, do you guys know who Shane Moore is? He's the Apocalypse Phoenix series. He's a prolific sci-fi apocalyptic author, and he's a close friend of mine. He's a retired police officer, police detective, and he's also a veteran, military veteran. And he served as the physical role model of Frank Tedesco, the cop in this story. And in fact, when you see the drawings of Frank Tedesco, that is Shane Moore, my buddy. And Shane is a detective in real life, retired. and my character is kind of loosely based on, but meant to look like him. And the character Frank Tedesco is former FBI. He becomes a cop down in Phoenix and then eventually up in Seattle. And he's a character who's appeared in 3 other stories of mine, because everything I write is in the same world. It's all in the same universe. It's all connected. I like world building. And he's the character I've used previously in the St. Thomas series. And he's just a cool character. So he's the cop in Seattle who's on to him. And he figures out really quickly who the vigilante is. He figures it out. And he's going to the VA hospital to meet this guy without any warning. He's going to go just confront him. And he heads over. He hears that he's working on the prosthetic wing over at the VA in Seattle. And he's headed over there. He's walking towards me, looking at him. And he's having this internal monologue. I got you. You are mine. You are mine. You're my guy. And he gets up there and he's like toying with him. He says, well, maybe you can help me figure out who this guy is, because he's clearly an operator. And he's like, yeah, sure. John's behind the counter. Like, yeah, sure. And then John brain screws him. He says, well, we can go sit down and talk elsewhere. He says, I'll put my little sign up, return in 1 hour, and he puts a little sign up and he rolls out from behind the counter in a wheelchair with a missing leg. And Frank Tedesco is like, fuck, you are not my guy. Oh my God. And he completely writes him off. And, but inevitably the two of them become friends in the book. They become chummy. It's more so in the second book. The first book, they just sort of get to know each other, but they become friends. And it leads to the final realization in book 2. I was right all along. You are the guy. You're my guy. And he gets mad at himself for writing him off. I shouldn't have done that, because John even says that to him. He says, I'd be offended if you didn't suspect me. I'm the perfect guy for what you're looking for. I like little shit like that.
Yeah, it reminds me of the days, the old days with the comics, where you did have that semi-adversarial, where is he or isn't he between, be it Commissioner Gordon, Batman, or whatever across the board. Do you know who they really are? And then they throw that little spanner in to cause them to get thrown off. But I've never been in the military, but with my dad being in the military and such, you're talking about how people just all of a sudden fade and go away, and kind of goes to their version. The old heroes don't die; they just fade away; they just disappear. Are you gonna have any of that in this book, where you do have a character do that? You're muted, Gary.
What you're going to discover in my book is that it's not in the book, but I can say it here, that this whole thing came about because of a discussion between 2 of my best friends and me, sitting around a table, and we're debating my problem with Batman and Punisher and why they don't work, but how they could work. And it was going to be in the book too, that, but then I took it out because I'm like, that's a little bit too much to put a real world discussion of why the film, specifically the film version of Batman, like Christopher Nolan's Batman, couldn't exist. He would be caught. He would absolutely be busted. He has nothing but one long paper trail with the Wayne Enterprises. He would be busted for it. Punisher, heck, even in the comics and in the films, in the TV show, they knew it's Frank Castle, right? So, right. It's just inevitably wouldn't work. It wouldn't function. What you need is somebody that's on the level of a tier 1 operator. You guys know what tier 1 operators are?
Yes.
Yeah, they are the guys that are top of the top in special forces, who are the ones who go up against global terrorism. And these guys are trained in a way where you can cut them off and they can go and infiltrate in a country and don't need any support from the military. They'll go out there and they'll do their job, living off of either the land or the false world they create, and basically do their mission and then get the hell out, and you'll never know who the hell it was. You'll see some TV report. Well, today, the fact, what do you call it? Nuclear thing, broke down and didn't work today, and they don't tell you the whole story that because if you didn't know this, there is in the video game Call of Duty, there's 141. Okay, in real life it's 145, and they do exist, and it's multi teams from around the globe, allies who build up this team, and it's from mostly the UK, Australia, and the United States and Canada, and these are the top combat soldiers that they have, all teaming up together to go out and fight global terrorism and any threat that threatens peace. And you'll hear some news story about something that happened in some country, and it's like, oh, it was just some incident. No, what that was special forces team went in there and took something out and killed some people, and they're saving face by telling you it was an accident or whatever. And it happens all the time. People have no idea that people don't know we're still in combat in Asia right now.
Oh.
People don't know that. We've been fighting Islam for like 200 years. It started with Tripoli. People don't realize that was a battle with Islam. Yes, it was directly. And the Philippines in particular, we've never stopped fighting in the Philippines. We've got missions going on all the time in the Philippines, in that whole region. It's and they use these operators, these top tier operators, because you don't want to hear about it in the news, what they're doing. And so
sorry. I was going to say, because I listen to a lot of Asian news, whether it's Arirang or how you pronounce that out of South Korea, or NHK, and just hearing about how it's kind of heating up over there with the Philippines and China and Japan. And we were talking about that earlier, Mike and I. The Coast Guard and now the Chinese have gotten the orders that they can use real cannons instead of water cannons. It's like, oh my God.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, every single time that we have ever prepared for potential war, we already have boots on the ground. People don't know that. And they finally let it out that before the Gulf War broke out, we had special teams over there doing damage. And that's what these guys do. And that's what John is. John is one of those guys, a tier 1 operator. He's with Delta Force. I wanted to go Army because I focus on, I'm Army vet. So I focus on the Army. He's 75th Ranger Regiment. He's Special Forces. And he's, the thing that's scary about him is, because you think, well, with that prosthetic leg, how dangerous can he be? Well, I happen to know guys that fight in combat that have prosthetic limbs. And they're very effective. And he is a very combat effective guy. And he decides the debate was in the book, but I took it out, where they debate, like, how would the Punisher and Batman? And I'm like, I can't have that in my book because copyright issues, trademarks. I'm like, I'm not going to even bother with that. But that's what the fight was over. The argument was that, how would that happen? I said, John is my answer. John is my answer to how somebody would pull it off. He would have to be a tier 1 operator and have the ability to create money. And the way he does it is he kills bad guys and takes their money. So there's no paper trail. His weapons he gets from it's a funny scene. He catches an arms dealer, an illegal arms dealer. And he says, from this day forward, you work for me. He says, if I find out that you've sold weapons to anybody else, I will kill you. He says, but you and I can be the best friends in the world as long as you're just dealing with me. But don't betray that trust. If you do, once again, nothing personal, I'm going to kill you. Right. So his arms dealer gets his weapons through illicit means. So again, no paper trail for anything. And you'll find out in the book what Vindicated Inc means, because Vindicated, of course, has its own meaning. Vindicated is what he's doing. He's vindicating himself. But Vindicated Inc is actually, I think it's mentioned in one of the chapters that you have available to read, because they create a fictional bogus company called Vindicated Inc. that is kind of like an airsoft company where they create, they sell weapons, airsoft weapons, and airsoft armor. And that's upstairs. Downstairs is the real stuff. And they're hiding it under the fake stuff. Get it? And it's kind of a joke within the story is that that's one of the ways he's going to hide what they do. So his bat cave is under a store selling fake military stuff.
Well, the perfect thing. You hide it in plain sight.
Yep. And they do. They use a lot of heavy duty equipment. They have drones. In fact, in the first chapter where you see him going up against some of the mercs, he's got a guy he's threatening to torture him for information. That's a member of this biker gang, fictional biker gang. And he's wanting to know where something is. And he's getting reports in his ear that he's got several guys moving to his position, mercs, that have been hired by the biker gang. And this is the escalation. They talk about it in what was it, Batman or Dark Knight. In the movie Dark Knight, he talks about Michael Caine's character says, "Have you ever heard of escalation?" Well, escalation is something that's real. That if you bring a knife, someone brings a gun. If somebody brings a gun, they bring a bigger gun. You bring a couple guys, they bring an army. It's escalation. And he's dealing with that in his own story. These bikers hire mercenaries to deal with him. And he's killing these guys. They're nowhere near as smart as he is or as effective. And, but in that story, you'll see some of my dark humor in that chapter too. I think that's one of the two, isn't it? Yeah, A Leg to Stand On. It's one of the chapters you can read where you see some of my dark humor while he's torturing this guy. And
I love it.
But anyway, that was my response to the question, which is he believes that there's really no way to figure it out, but it does get figured out in book 2, not book 1. Book 2, it's figured out, but something happens and I can't tell you what it is because that's what leads to book 3. And book 3 is where this is really going. When you get to book 3, you're like, oh shit. Because I will just say this, I'm a big fan of Mission Impossible, the original series. And I'll say no more.
Oh yeah, I mean, as I sit back and say, the reason why that show would never last a day is because you have to watch the show. You can't be buried into your phone half it, because if you miss just a minute, sometimes you lost what's all going on. I
love that series. Now, agree. Some of the writing there, Bruce Geller's team, sometimes it was 1960s, so they wrote it at a very not as intelligent level, but there was some really smart stuff in there. And there is conspiracy going on in his story, because who is this guy that is watching over John this whole time to the VA? Who is this guy? He's in the shadows. He's very menacing, but you begin to wonder, is this guy CIA? Is he a spook? Is he NSA? Who is this guy? And I'm just telling you, it's all building up to something. And that happens in book 3. And you just got to read the first 2 books. The first one first. We're going to get that out there for people this year.
I just want to change gears slightly here. You're going to love this part because it's basically me kissing your butt here. But, we've been complaining about, a lot of us, about the state of comic books today. The writing, the art, the storytelling, the world building. And just reading the 2 chapters that you had on there, it just gave me a flashback to when I was growing up and reading the comics out of the 70s, 80s, where you did have all this invested. You were invested into the hero. You were invested in what the story was about. There was something substantive to it. There was meat to the bone. It wasn't going out there and doing the pandering. And it just reminded me of the days when I opened up like the Dark Knight Returns with the inner monologues, which I think is very important and really did that.
Well, you've read
character
2 of the chapters. You know that
Yeah.
there's a lot of internal dialogue going on in this story.
Right.
He's always talking, and
Mhm.
I like that.
Well, I was telling Baron, I said, that's what I like about it. You're getting to know what's inside John's head, how he's
Mhm.
thinking, how he's looking at different situations. And even when I was reading the first couple of pages, I said to Baron, I said, this really grabs you right away and pulls you right in.
I think that the narrative process with him in particular, because you as the reader are getting to see something that nobody else in the story is getting to see, is his thoughts and what he's thinking and how he's going to go
Mhm.
about things. And he ends up harboring some guilt over Frank Tedesco because he really likes Frank Tedesco. He's a good cop. He's a veteran, you know, and he feels bad that he's fooling him the way he is, that he's playing
Mhm.
him, because he plays him too, because he uses his friendship to do something at the police department. He gets hey, can you take me on a tour of the police department? Yeah, man, come on over and see me. Goes over there and he does it for a reason, because he needs to get a feed in. They're going to hack their department. In fact, they're going to try to get into CODIS. And I'm not going to say what happens there. But you
don't
know what
wanna
that
know.
is. That's the federal program. They're going to
Mm-hmm.
try to hack into it. And the only way to do
I-
that is while somebody is logged into it.
Mhm.
You have to log in. You have to piggyback on
Yeah. And I don't want to know until I read. Let's put it that way. And that's just it. Just reading what it is it's like I can't wait till next month when the next issue comes out. Well, these 2 chapters you have is like, I can't wait to see this. And you were talking about the art styles, and it's great to see the different art styles. I know, and I had to cite this where they say about Al Williamson with you. It's like, no, you know what? This has Gary Cassell's fingerprints all over it. This, how do you describe his artwork, Gary Cassell? Because you got that.
I try to be as realistic as possible, and I am a student of Al Williamson. In
Mhm.
fact, one of the greatest compliments I ever got was from Tom Waltz at IDW when he said that I'm this
Mhm.
generation's Al Williamson, because he was
Right.
a hero of mine. I love the way he drew. He was
Great artist.
best friends with Frank Frazetta.
Mhm.
And Frank Frazetta, Bernie Wrightson, and Al Williamson worked together a lot. And they
Right.
would do work with him, hiding what they were doing. Because like
Mhm.
if Frank Frazetta was doing a book, or one of the others was doing a book, and he was behind on his deadline, he would ask his friends to step in. Can you do the background here? Can you do the ship here? And I'll do this, just the characters. And that
Mhm.
happened. You can actually see
Yeah.
Frank Frazetta talk about that in the movie Painting with Fire, the documentary about Frank Frazetta. He talks
Mhm.
about that. And I've done that in my book, Beowulf. Not
Mhm.
Beowulf, I'm sorry. The historical novel about the Battle at Hastings.
1066.
Yeah, the tapestry. What's the name of the tapestry? It's
Bayeux
definitely-
Tapestry. Bayeux
Yeah,
Tapestry.
Bayeux. The book Bayeux. I did the historical graphic novel. It's 130 pages, 124 pages, something like that. And so Graham asked me what was my least favorite thing to draw, and I said horses, because in that graphic novel, out of 124 pages, there's about 88 pages of horse combat, and horses are
Mhm.
really difficult to draw, especially realistically, and they're not interesting. They're boring to draw, and apparently I draw them very well, but the horses only have 2 expressions: calm and out of their mind crazy. But when I dealt with that book, it was again combat. It's about military history.
Right.
It's almost all I like to work on is anything that's got anything to do with the military. I'm not interested in working on other stuff. Marvel was going to hire me at one point, and things fell through because it was discovered how close a relationship I have with Chuck Dixon, because I worked with
Mhm.
Chuck, and
Right.
they're like, yeah, we're hiring him, because they hate Chuck Dixon over there.
Mhm.
If you didn't know that, the previous
Oh,
head of Marvel Comics hated Chuck Dixon, and
Mhm.
they were like talking to me, like what I could be working on. And they were really excited about it. They contacted me. I didn't contact them. They contacted me, and then all of a sudden they ghosted me. And I come to find out through a friend that it was my relationship with Chuck Dixon that cost me the job. I'm like, I'd rather be friends with Chuck Dixon because I didn't want to work for Marvel. I'm like, I could care less. I told him I don't like drawing superhero shit. Not interested. I like characters. The Punisher's interesting. What's that, Mike?
I was going to say, you've done some work for IDW and you've done some work for their G.I. Joe.
I have a close relationship with several people at IDW. And my last job for them was G.I. Joe.
I remember that wonderful cover that you were drawing. You're showing us as you were going along. It's like, wow. I mean,
yeah, I hated the coloring they did. So I colored it myself. I'm going to release it as a pinup to sell. But yeah, I've worked on Kiss. I've worked on. I was hired for G.I. Joe. I was brought on and went through the whole process. And then Andy Schmidt left IDW to go work for Hasbro to head up Transformers G.I. Joe for Hasbro. And his marching orders that he left behind was that I was one of their new cover artists. The guy didn't like me that took over because he was a hard-carrying communist. He hated me because I was a veteran and he knew I was conservative and he hated that. So I didn't get any work until Tom took over. And Tom immediately made up for the mistake that was made and got me to do at least one cover for him. So I got my G.I. Joe cover.
There we go. Yeah, I know.
I've thought about that. I thought about contacting...
I was going to ask you if you ever did any G.I. Joe Transformers crossover covers. And
no, I was supposed to. Supposed to. It just never happened because the guy in charge of Transformers G.I. Joe at IDW didn't like me because I was, again, a military veteran. And I'm like, how can you run G.I. Joe and not like veterans? Well, he did it. Well, and that's why I'll probably never work for IDW again because they have too many people like that over there now.
That's a shame. That's a shame. You know, the thing is, you know, I hold you on the same level as Al Williamson. And I think Al Williamson is one of the greats out there, along with Carmine Infantino.
Infantino,
yeah. I have a hard time saying his name. Also, you know, George.
Just think of the word infantile. And then change the end of the word Infantino.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so, you know, I hold you on, you know, where, you know, say like Al Williamson, it's like you beneath. It's like, no, you've earned that spot to be alongside of him. With
I don't know if I agree with that, but thank you though. But no, I don't. Yeah. I really, I'm down on my work. I'm my worst critic.
All artists are though. That's the thing. That's why I want to let you know how I think, Gary, because you know, true artists is always hard. It's like, you know, we sit back and say praise. It's like, no, you know, I made this mistake here, I made this mistake there. And I think it's one of the things that when you hear an artist say that, it means they're wanting to work harder and harder to make a better product as they go along. And yeah, when you hear that from an artist, you can appreciate them more. When an artist sits back and says, I made the perfect work, it's like, okay, you've lost it. You lost what the goal is, what the aim is on that. It's always to improve and do something you hadn't done before.
Well, we got to do a discussion about, you know, like Jack Kirby had some books out there where it was like, what's going on with his artwork? And I told people two things were going on. One, his deadlines were insane. And so he was cutting corners. Two, depending on who his inker was. There's one inker, I always forget his name. He was terrible. He would actually erase artwork he did and just leave it out of the panels because he didn't want to have to ink it. He was a terrible inker. I can't think of his name. Oh my God, it's just escaping me right now.
That's criminal. I mean, that's absolutely criminal. I mean,
well, the way some of the artists were treated is criminal too. You know, Kirby was I consider he was one of the most abused artists by Marvel in particular. Stan Lee,
right?
And don't get me wrong, I'm a big Stan Lee fan too, but Stan Lee, you know, he was known for not really being all that nice to his artists and using them and not paying them what they deserve.
It's like Gaines with Mad, you know, and all the stuff he had. The same thing is like, even though they did have those wild trips, But when I knew when I was good friends with Gordon Priscilla and seeing his originals and then seeing what they did with the inking, is like, why did they change that? That was perfect. Why did the inker take that one out? And it's I suppose if you don't know who the inker is or you don't trust the inker, it's like you're putting your life in your hands, literally. Because this is your lifeblood you're handing over, and you're hoping someone will respect that. And it's the respect. There's got to be respect amongst artists, going from one to the other. Even if it's something you don't like, you still got to respect what that artist was doing.
Yeah,
You're essentially
there's no
playing
question.
in their sandbox.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of the things, like, I have a very close working relationship with Richard Bonk, and Richard Bonk, and Graham did not argue with me on this. I said, I consider Richard Bonk one of the best inkers I've ever known. And I put him right up there with Graham Nolan. And Graham Nolan goes, oh, absolutely. He's as good as me.
Mm-hmm.
And he really is. Richard Bonk is an incredible inker. His brush and quill skills are just incredible. And he's traditional. Even Graham has turned to digital inking. He still does all of his pencils, but then he scans it in and does a lot of his inking digitally now. Not Richard. Richard's old school, man. He does everything. Like, if I pencil, he prints it out in blue line and inks over does actual inking over my work. And he did a pinup with me for Vindicated. It's in the trailer where you see the guy on the motorcycle. That's penciled by me, inked by him. And I thought I would actually pull up something that he and I did together.
Okay.
That'd be great to see.
I'll pull it up here. Go to my projects folder, which has 24 gigs of art in it.
Oh, geez.
Wow.
There's a lot of art in here. Transmission. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Let me present, share screen. I hate that they put the word present, because present sounds like something animals do when they want to mate.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like, going to present myself. Is how you like it, huh?
All right, here's these are the pages that he and I did together. Can you see the artwork there?
Yeah, up to the right there. Yeah. Wow.
There's some. Check out the Jack Kirby outer space art that he and I did together. Here's another page. This is fully colored. All these pages are actually inked, but this is a different folder. This is my nod to Predator with the helicopter landing with Dutch. Oh, got disconnected. No, there it is. And on this one, the guy lands at this lab in the Pacific in his little stealth Black Hawk. And then you see the hatch closed, hatch opens, and a cigar goes flying out. I'm like, that was just a little nod I had to Predator, because I love that movie. But,
yeah,
it's a great movie.
You hear that, Paul? It's a great movie.
Let me see if I can find a really good page here to give us an example. Oh, here's one. I like this. This is a good example of his and my work together. This is his pencils, my inks. And you can see how I come in and work on his artwork. I absolutely stay true to his pencils. I follow exactly what he's doing. He loves that. I don't venture off to do my style and focus on how I draw. I focus on how he did what he did. And I go in and I do my brush work and everything, and I follow his inks. This is Leslie Kay, a close friend of mine. She's a soap opera actress friend of mine. That she's an Emmy Award-winning soap opera actress, daytime Emmy Award. That's Matt Best. He's signed on there. Matt Best, you know him from Black Rifle Coffee Company. That's Matt. He's in the book. And there, of course, that's my boss, Dale Dye. That's him there. And Julia's in there too. That's Julia right there. That's Julia.
Okay.
They're my bosses over at Warriors Incorporated. And everything I do, that was something I wanted to mention to you with the books is, by the way, this is a real Iraq war veteran who lost both her arms. I put her in the book. She was really nice. I hung out with her for a while out in Hollywood.
Forgive the stupid question. Are the prosthetics actually true to what she has?
No.
Okay.
This is sci-fi.
Okay.
So it takes place a little bit more in the future. She has some really cool prosthetics, but no, this is far more sci-fi than her actual.
Okay, because I know they're doing wonderful things now with prosthetics, and it's hard to keep up nowadays with what they've been doing.
Yeah, but I wanted to show you what his and my work looks like. I mean, we like working together, and we've done quite a few things together. Let's see, what's this one? Let's see if I can open this one. There's another, and in fact, that's Richard Bonk right there. Richard drew himself into the book. I like that expression. Biting her lip.
Yeah, I'm used to seeing that run the wife.
Oh, there we go. There's Richard. Here's a close up of Richard. So, yeah,
I love all the different little detail you guys put into those panels too. And
yeah, he likes the way he's a military vet too, by the way. Richard is, and we just have a very healthy respect and love for one another, and I just any chance to work together, we jump at it. It's like, hey man, I'm going to do this. You want to work with me? Oh, well, let me finish this, because he's working with Mike Barron at the time. He goes, let me finish working with Mike, and I'll jump right in there. It's like any chance we get. 20 years of friendship right there, professional friendship. But and that's the way it is. You know, people that I work with, like I worked with a jackass one time. We didn't get along at all, and I'm picky who I work with now. It's like because I don't want to be miserable anymore with people, and I've been made miserable by people I've worked with, and you hit a point where it's like I can't do that anymore. I just can't do it. I'll have a heart attack or a stroke. And I worked with this one crazy guy. He's a former Marine. I thought because he's a veteran, he'd be good to work with. No, he was batshit crazy, out of his mind. And I do look back and I feel bad over the fact that part of the reason was because he had a TBI. And of course he had PTSD from combat. But the TBI did damage to him to where I jokingly said it to him as a joke, but I meant it. Because when you hear me tell a joke or make a joke about something, you've been there, Bear, when I've done it.
Oh yeah,
I'll make a joke and I actually mean it, but it's funny. It's the whole spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. And he called me one day.
A few times.
not too much. No, not really. Not really. You're one of the people that doesn't really. You've never really annoyed me. But he called me one day. This Marine that was backing our project, and he called me and I said, "Okay, well, which version of you am I getting today? The one that loves me or the one that wants to murder me?" And he laughed, and I made him laugh. But at the same time, I fucking meant it, because like he would call me like one day, I'm like, next day he's like, remember? Have you ever heard the stories about the director from RoboCop? I forgot his name.
Oh, Paul Verhoeven.
Paul Verhoeven. You're fucking me. You're fucking me. That's the version of this guy I would get. Like, I don't know what you're talking about, dude. We're working, you know? And plus I was doing other things for him. And I was writing a screenplay for him. And this guy would like, man, this looks great. I'm so proud and excited about it. Next day, you're fucking me. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? You know, it's no different today than it was yesterday. I don't understand what's up with you. And it actually impacted me. I don't like talking about this. It impacted me psychologically. And it's part of the reason why I just stopped working altogether on my stuff, because he broke me. And I don't like admitting that anybody breaks me. That dude broke me. And but he led to me. Now I have to either I only work with friends, or I work with someone who I was introduced to by a friend. I will not work with somebody that just like contacts me out of the blue. Done with that. It's always hit bad. It's always hit bad with me. I've had so many bad experiences. I got involved with this New York lawyer. He tried to screw me. And I said, don't fuck with an artist. We will find a way to bone you back. And I did. And he tried to do damage to me, and he couldn't do damage to me. I said, 90% of my work is repeat business, and my clients like me, so fuck off. I'll tell you that story sometime, because it's pretty funny. And I'll just simply put it this way. He wanted the artwork that I did. And I said, no, I'm not giving it to you.
Mm-hmm.
What he forgot was he had access to the artwork through Dropbox.
Mm.
He was too stupid. This is a New York lawyer doing this. And I just wouldn't tell him and remind him, you have access to it, because I wondered, he robbed me of money he was supposed to pay me. And I'd done all this book, the entire book. I drew the entire book. It was done. And found out that he had an investor. And the deal was that if he got an investor, he was supposed to pay me full page rate. I was charging him $150 a page. He was supposed to be paying me $300.
Mm-hmm.
And when I found that out, and it's only because he screwed up in a phone call with my lawyer, and my lawyer said, "Stop, don't do any more work, stop."
Mm-hmm.
And so I did. Followed and so what he did is he went out and he paid Google to write nasty shit about me. We put up ads saying, and of course it didn't do any good. It did nothing. It didn't hurt me. But I finally told, I said, look at all that money you spent on Google. You could have just paid me what you owed me and you'd have had the artwork. But again, I left that Dropbox folder up for him for 5 years.
Cool.
And he could have gotten his artwork at any point, but that he was too stupid to remember that he had access to my folder. I let it go for 5 years. And finally I went, okay, I removed it after 5 years. And some people judged me and they said, well, you shouldn't have done that. I'm like, fuck you. You weren't the one having to go through with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
I said,
he was the one trying to screw you over.
Right.
Yeah. Once you have somebody do that to you, you want to be able to get back at them. And I found a way to get back at him. And so I came up with that statement at a convention one time. I said, yeah, there's two groups of people you don't screw with. People that are serving your food. 3 groups: people serving your food, people making your food, or people doing artwork for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not the first time I've gotten even with somebody, because I got screwed over by my boss, and we were friends, by the way. And he laughed when he found out what I did. He laughed his ass off. You remind me of my former boss. He died of cancer back in 2018, and I was lead pallbearer at his funeral. And he was like a 12-pack a day guy, and he was an old truck driver. And they had screwed me over. The company screwed me over. They had owed me $50,000 in back pay. And they lied to us and said that they're going to go get the company's workers. We were going to get our percentages. And they were going to go to St. Louis and work with the lawyers and get that. What they did is they went to St. Louis and they shut the company down and opened a new corporation. And by doing that, any agreements and contracts they had were null and void.
Mm-hmm.
So that meant my $50,000 was gone. So what I did, and I told him what I did years later. I said, yeah, I was so pissed at you for what you did. When I moved to the office in Springfield, where I live now, instead of Lebanon, where we're at in Lebanon, Missouri, it's 50 miles away. I said, I'd only work half a day, but I would bill you for the whole day. And I did that for a while. And I think I averaged out to about $36,000. And I felt like that was enough to where I felt like I had gotten my blood, the blood I was deserved. And he says, you did that? I went, yeah. And he goes, oh, don't ever fuck with Gary. Don't ever fuck with Gary. No, I will fucking get even with you. I will get even. And it's what happened. It was funny. And it broke my heart when he died. He was a good guy. The only rule to our friendship was don't ever ask me to work with you again. And I said, because we have a good friendship, I will never work with you again because you screwed me. And I'll never forget that. I don't think you meant to do it, but you did it.
That's why I try to stay on your good side, Gary. Really.
What's that?
That's why I try to stay on your good side.
Yeah, because I'm not a very vindictive person. I'm not.
No.
And I don't stay angry very long. I get angry and I get over it. And I move on. But when somebody screws me, it's different. And and getting screwed out of $50,000, because I had a kid. I was raising my kid, my daughter Zoe. I was a single parent, no child support. I did it all on my own. And that actually hurt me. And so I saw it as, well, as Chris Knight would say, it was a moral imperative to to get even.
Mhm.
And you know who Chris Knight is, right? Real genius.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Val Kilmer. It's a moral imperative to get even.
Been a long time since I've seen that movie. Oh,
We just talked about it on Saturday Morning Fun Time.
okay.
A couple weeks back. Well, about a month back.
Okay.
We did it because I introduced that movie to Anima, my girlfriend, and she just loved that movie. She's like, "Oh my god, that's a great movie! It's so funny." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know." And Val Kilmer is like one of those people, like Bill Murray. I'm attracted to personalities.
Right.
Okay, and the personality I'm most attracted to is the Bill Murray types, Chevy Chase types, Val Kilmer types that are very funny, witty, quick retorts. Because that's what I've always been known for, is my quick retorts to people. And they're like, "How do you do that?" And I said, "Well, they did a neurological workup on me, and my brain works slightly faster than everybody else's." And my boss, again, Craig, the one I was just talking about, he said, "I'd sit there, watch you. Somebody'd say something stupid to you, and I could just read your face. You're about to rip them apart." And I love that the wheels are just going, and you could just see it in your eyes because your eyes get big when somebody says something stupid to you. And I get excited, like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god."
He's about to strike.
And you'll see that kind of humor in a story. John has my sense of humor. There's a line in one of the books that it's in book 2 that's forthcoming. It'll be next year. But in book 2, there's a line where he's in a what do you call it, interrogation room, and it's dark in there. There are no lights on, and it's only the light through the window. You can see a clock on the wall above the two-way mirror, you know. And he keeps looking up there, and you see the clock change, and then finally somebody steps out of the dark, and he's like, and the guy speaks to him, and he's like, and the first thing that goes through his mind is like, "How the fucking long were you standing in the dark? That is so weird. Who does that?" And then as he's doing it, and at some point somebody else steps out from the dark. He goes, "How many of you are in here? What is this, a fucking clown car?" And a buddy of mine, a military vet buddy that wanted to write with me, said that he hated that humor. He says, "Nobody talks like that." I said, "I talk like that. What do you mean?"
Well,
I said, "And that's why you'll never work on Vindicated, because you don't understand my acerbic wit and how weird I am and the weird stuff I've said to people in real life. You know, I say weird things to people. You've been there. I will say something that is just like out of left field, weird, funny, but you're laughing because it's like fucking ridiculous. Like, what the fuck did he just say to that?" Like when, what did she say?
Oh, she said she's going to go get something to eat.
Yes, we have it's date night, and I'm interrupting date night by doing the interview today. But I promised, you know, Sundays, like, I'm not supposed to do interviews on Sundays, but this is when you're available. So I'm like, that's what we'll do it.
So
and
thank you, Anima. Yeah, thank you for sharing him with us today.
Yes, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it.
She's the love of my life. I've never met anybody like her. I've had a lot of women in my life, and she's something else. She is something else.
Well, she's witty. She's a little bit like you in some regards. Yeah, and she's
dry-witted, and she gets my jokes most of the time. Sometimes I'll say something, she's like, doesn't know what the fuck I'm talking about, because she doesn't know American. Right. She doesn't understand Americanisms, and she's learning them. And I'm introducing her to classic TV, because like I went on a date one time with this model, and she was way too young for me, and I knew she was way too young for me. And during the dinner, I made 3 Gilligan's Island references, and she didn't understand any of them. And I immediately knew this isn't going to happen. You're not getting me at all. And I like that character in the show Dream On. I don't know if you watched that show.
I remember Dream On back in the day.
Yeah. I think in TV show and movie quotes. Seriously, somebody will say something to me, and I think of a movie quote to respond with. And that's how he was. And when I watched that show, I'm like, oh, that's me. Oh my God. Somebody like me. I love that character was like that. And Keith does the same thing. Keith and I are very similar in that way. Keith and I think in movie quotes. And we'll say it. I've said it I'll do a movie quote. Nobody knows what I just fucking said. It's a movie quote. You just think I was just being witty. No, that was a movie quote I just threw at you from a movie that was the perfect response to what you just said to me.
I mean, I do that, Mike, and Cash doesn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have I dropped stuff and Cash is, huh?
Well, even this past Wednesday, you did a quote, and Cash was like, "What?" And I said, "You're kidding me, Cash? Really?"
You're killing me, Cash. You're killing me, Cash.
Do I know Cash?
I don't think you've met Cash Money. He knows of you, but yeah.
There's so many people in our community, and I consider this a community. Like Pacific 414 is part of our audience as well as a channel that I support. So it's like we're all part of the same community. Midnight's Edge, in his own way, Gary Beekler. As I referred to him one time, I popped on with him one time, and he had to go, and they said, "We got the two Garys here." I said, "Yeah, the other white meat." And Gary chuckled at that.
Well,
and
I do appreciate the support, Gary, and it is something I try not to take for granted at any point in time, because I look at it this way: this YouTube thing can go away instantly.
The next platform, the next thing. Yeah, you never know. We've had the internet since the 90s, man, and we've seen changes on it so much. Hey, Tagge's here. What's up, buddy?
Oh.
And I don't know if I get this. I meant to say thank you to Lady V because she complimented my artwork earlier. She said it was very, very kind. She was very complimentary to my work. So, and I always appreciate it because I'm the biggest critic of my work. Like I learned a long time ago as a drummer, because I used to do session drumming, studio, that I will catch my screw ups. I hear them when I'm drumming. But I was told by a guitarist, never point out your mistakes. Nobody will ever notice it. Only you notice it.
Same thing in radio and TV. Yeah.
Exactly. So I learned the same thing with comic art. I did one time, and my late friend David Fott, he and I got into an argument one day because he said I said something behind his back, and I said I never said anything behind your back. I will never say anything behind someone's back that I won't say to their face. It's a rule to live by.
Right.
Don't talk shit behind people's back. And I was commenting one time on the fact that when he's in a rush, when he was doing artwork, that his characters had bent straw elbows when he was rushing through it. His elbows didn't always look right. And I said, I can always tell when you rushed on a drawing because you do that with the elbows. And I was trying to give him advice on how to avoid that. I said, there are ways to avoid. I rush doing artwork, but you'll never know it because what I do is I make sure part of the drawing is correct. It's the details going into it that I leave out. And you learn that as an artist. You learn where you can cut corners. And you need to learn to do that and stop drawing bent straw elbows. And he said that I said it behind his back one day, and I got really upset by that because I confronted him in front of people. I'm like, I don't talk shit behind your back, man. I love you. I'm like, I would never do that to you. And he goes, well, that's not what I said. And I went, well, that's what they said to me. And I corrected them. But he and I stayed friends until his death. And he died of COVID last year.
No.
He was one of my close friends that passed away. Keith and I lost 3 close friends to COVID.
Wow. And, I never say anything bad behind your back. I mean, I'll say this right now. When it comes to running your drumming, you're no Ringo
nothing
Starr,
that can be said about me that I haven't heard.
Yeah. Yeah. You're no Ringo Starr.
I'm a dick. Okay. I'm a jerk. I'm an ass.
Those are your good points.
One thing that can't be said about me is I'm a liar and that I talk shit about somebody behind their back. That's not true. I don't do that. But you can call me a bastard. I can call a lot of things. I mean, one of my closest friends back in the 90s, he stopped. We were walking downtown. He stopped because I just burned him. And one of my jokes, I poked fun at him. His name is Jason Pancook. He's a filmmaker, and he's been an editor for Fangoria. He's worked for Fangoria. He's a very great guy. He's one of my closest, oldest friends. And he stopped in the middle of downtown Champaign, Illinois. And he turned and he looked at me, he says, when you die, and I will outlive you, I will make sure that on your tombstone it reads, Gary was a kind and caring bastard. And he turned around and walked away. And that stuck with me to this day. And I said, when I die, I want him to make sure that's on my tombstone. And I thought that was the funniest thing ever said about me, because I really care. I'm there for my friends. I've helped a lot of my friends, and I'm always there. If somebody needs something from me, I will help them. But I will fuck with you mercilessly if you're a friend of mine.
See, here I was trying to get an FU out of you by saying you're no Ringo Starr.
Don't worry, you'll get it out of me, Baron.
Oh, I get it out of you all the time now. he says he goes Gary on me. Goes, fuck you, Baron.
Gary.
Fuck you.
Yeah, Baron was there. I feel bad because Baron was there when I went off on a couple of people. And one of them was Keith. I admitted it was Keith, because Keith and this other person was doing show and tell, and the other person, Danny, was talking over everyone. And I ended the show abruptly. And I know you heard me. I said, what the fuck is wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you? Do you not understand how this shit works? You can't talk over it. And I pointed at the other two guys, doing show and tell while somebody else is talking? That is so rude. Don't do that. I asked you guys before not to do that. And now all of a sudden people don't show up anymore for TGIF. Because I showed my ass.
We've had that same thing happen on Pop Talk.
I had to my shit.
Put in guidelines. It's like, this is what you cannot do while you're on stream.
Right.
Yeah, Danny was one of the worst. I miss Danny, but Danny made a mistake with me. And you do not F me over. You just don't do that. And I gave him a lot of rope and a lot of latitude. And I love his mom. Oh my God, Penny is so amazing.
Oh yeah, she's sweetheart.
But Danny broke my heart. And I told him, he cost me a 35-year friendship with somebody. And I told him, I'm like, man, until you get your head out of your ass, I'm done. I'm not going to have you doing this, getting high on shows and drinking. And he's got a problem. It cost him his woman, and it cost him me. I would love to have him back. I would welcome him back in a second if he would pull his head out of his ass.
I like Danny. I do like him.
Danny's a great dude, man. When he's straight, but when he's messed up, he's in. I just love the guy. I do. It breaks my heart.
Yeah, the last time I talked to him, I can't remember if he came on yours or mine, Mike, but he was saying about how he's getting a divorce or breaking up, and it's like,
it was one of the open panels.
Open panels, yeah. Okay.
Yes, and I'm not shitting on him right now. I am not shitting on him.
No, I'm not.
I'm not disrespecting him. I think he's one of the smartest, funniest dudes, and he is great for a show when he's on the mark. But he's got to clean up his life, man. It's like nobody else is going to do it for you. You have to do it yourself. And I pray for it. I pray for him every day.
Yeah, when I heard that, it was like I kind of got hurt. It's like, oh my God, because the relationship they were having with I Love Lucy's and all that. And it's like,
what did No just say? He pulled out my what?
Anonymous, being the smart ass he is.
Yeah,
I like that one. And I'm going to tell you something, and I mean this. If Danny would clean up his act, I would bring him back in a heartbeat. I love that guy.
I know you would. He's I know he's got a special spot in your heart. I know that.
So, because I've got a big heart, and anybody who knows me, Tagge said something nice about me last night. That I really stuck. And I do this. I do it with Real Wade Nation. Anybody who's trying to do a show, did it with Steven Seagal. I love Fat Steven Seagal. I love him. He's a friend of mine.
Oh, yeah.
And
great guy.
I push people. Do your own show. You need to be your own voice. And people will start doing shows because I pushed them to do it. And it makes me feel good that I helped get them started. I don't need any thank you or kudos or anything or an award for it. Just the fact that they're successful makes me feel good. The only time I've ever felt resentment, only one time, was when I introduced Drew Struzan to Charlie Deslarica and connected them so Drew could do the Blade Runner special edition final cut DVD cover. He did that Blade Runner poster for them, and it happened because I introduced him, and I got no credit for that, and that annoyed me. That was the one time I ever got annoyed by something for not getting credit that I felt was due, because it wouldn't have happened if it weren't for me. But in the end, Charlie made sure to point out that Blade Zone, even though he didn't say my name, he said Blade Zone. If it weren't for Blade Zone, there would be no final cut. And that was Gary Willoughby and me. Yeah, I know. Everybody that works on Blade Zone is named Gary.
3 Garys. Yep. Gary.
Gary Carden, Gary Willoughby, and Gary. Now, me. And the funny thing is, Gary Willoughby, he's from Ohio. He has a funny way of talking, talks like this. And he said, "Oh, I just understood something." I'm like, "What's that?" And he goes, "Your name is Gary. My name is Gary." And I just sat there looking at him going, "Okay, Gary." One of the funniest things he ever said to me. I love him. He's still
kind of a Gomer Pyle
35 years.
Wow.
35 years he and I have been friends. And I cherish my friendships. They mean a lot to me because who your friends are says a lot about who you are.
Oh, yeah. And I'm honored that I'm one of your friends. So
Sort of.
Yeah. You put up with me.
I love you, dude. You're a good dude.
And and enjoy this. This is going to be the only time I'm really nice to you. Is on here, give me a praise and all that. And it's good. We'll go right back to what I was beforehand.
There's nothing funnier than doing a show with Baron and his mic goes ape shit. That old mic you had. And I'm like, "Hey, can you mute your mic?"
Yeah.
Get this crazy pitch volume thing. It was funny.
Oh, well, I think it's because I changed computers since then. So I was on this old crappy laptop. Well, not crappy, but outdated. Now I got this nice system. So hopefully I'm not
what's
crappy.
Funny when you look back at all those years I've been doing Pop Culture Minefield, I never really talked about what I do. For a long time. A lot of people had no idea. You work in the comic industry? I also work in the film industry. Like, really? I'm like, yeah, I work for Tom Hanks. Yeah. And I just don't talk about what I do. And I finally decided I need to start talking about what I do because people don't know who I am or what I've done. And it's like the joke is that you can actually play 6 Degrees with Gary now because of all the people I've worked with. And it's like Kevin Bacon, because even I'm only 1 degree separated from Kevin Bacon because my boss is Dale Dye, and Dale Dye has worked with Kevin Bacon. I'm now directly connected to Tom Hanks because I worked with Tom Hanks. I worked directly with Gary Sinise, Brad Pitt. In fact, I worked directly with him and his brother Doug because they're from here, right here in Springfield. And they have a charity here in Missouri for getting kids in school shoes and lunches. And I did the menu. I made it look like an old 50s fold-out menu for their shoe program. It was really cool. I did all that graphics. And Doug and I even considered doing a comic, a little 12-page comic to give out to people. It never happened. I don't know why. But Doug's the Pitts are a great family. They're really nice people. They're good people. I've run into Jennifer Aniston and what's her name? Crazy bitch.
Angelina Jolie.
Yeah, both of them here in Springfield. I ran into Jennifer Aniston at a Dillon's grocery store. And I ran into Jolie at the mall.
Okay.
And I did not make contact with either of them. I just went, "Oh, hey," and just moved on. Because I've been around celebrities before, and they don't want 99% of the time they don't want to be hassled in public. So you just leave them alone. Just moved on. And but I definitely wouldn't have with Angelina Jolie because I don't like her.
Nah, I don't know. That's something crazy. And
the best part of her ended up on her daddy's dick.
Oh, ow. And Anima, I've always been trying to steal Gary. So,
and you're one of the people who calls me Gary. You don't call me Gary. You call me Gary. And I like that. like somebody said that, tried to say that my problem is, the same thing, because it was Anima and Martin were making fun, saying that I don't want to say words from other countries, languages, with the accent. And I don't. I can't. I don't have the tongue for it. I'm not going to try to pronounce the letter U with accents over it. I'm not going to do that. I said, but as long as I get the consonant right, I'm happy. And that's what happens with me when people say my name. I don't care if you call me Gurry, Gary, Geary. I don't care. What I care about is the G, the G sound.
Yep.
Get that part. Even if you say it as K, I would not freak out. But when somebody calls me Gerry, I don't know why. It just annoys the shit out of me being called Gerry, especially after I pronounce my name for somebody. It's like, I'm like, were you not fucking listening to me? And people go, well, it's because I keep looking at your name and it confuses me. And I'm like, stop looking at my name and look at me in the face, because that's the sexy part.
That's not what I was told.
Well, when I first stopped by Pop Culture Minefield, that was one of the things I was paying attention to, was how people were pronouncing your name, because I figured if I ever got to talk to you, which the only other time before today I actually talked to you and Keith was on Tim's Talk when he was having his 600 subscribers celebration.
Yeah.
So I was telling myself, pay attention, keep it for your notes.
Now, Clobby and I are friends. I call him Clobbery. And he calls me Jagary. And he's the one who started that Jagary thing. And some people, that's what they call me now, Jagary. Lady V calls me Jagary. And I like that name. I think that's funny. That's a cool name. It still has my name in it.
Yep.
It doesn't become my name until it has the hard G.
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 I just know how your one sister calls you. That New York.
That's where the Geary came in. My sister Luann, she was raised for a few years in New York, so she's got a little bit of a New York accent when she talks, and she'll go, "Now, Geary, don't forget to give me a phone call." My Jewish siblings.
Oy vey.
Yeah, I'm the only Irish Roman Catholic out of a family of 6 Jews.
Wow. That in by itself is a story.
Yeah, all my siblings. I remember when my brother Mike was he wanted to be, there was a time when I went to seminary and he was going to be a rabbi. And my mother was like, what? Can you have that? One child is a rabbi and the other one a priest? Is that possible? And I'm like, yeah, it can happen in mixed families like ours. Yeah. But I remember for Christmas, for Christmas one time, I sat there and I was just digging into the ham going, you may as well just give this to me with all my Jewish siblings. It's all my ham. And my other siblings are like, we're non-practicing Jews. We're because my siblings are not religiously Jewish; they are race Jewish. But my brother Michael tried, and then he gave up. And he was the one I was closest to for years. He was my bestie. And just remember, I call him Clobbery.
And this is what a lot of us was referring to, because ever since he told us about it, I got this in my head. I said, you know what? I'm going to do this. Anonymous. Anonymous. Anonymous.
I'm checking.
And I've been torturing him ever since with that.
Anonymous. I remember when I was 13 years old, that song came out when I was 13. And that's all I wanted to listen to for like weeks. I would go, I was in London when that came out, and downtown London, staying at a hotel with my dad. And every time we went to this restaurant, they had a jukebox, and I'd ask for money, and that's the song I'd play. Mana, mana, I fucking love that song.
It's great. Even when we did a karaoke stream a few weeks ago, the three of us decided, you know what? We're going to sing Anonymous's favorite song, Manamana.
Mine was Tom T. Hall's Sneaky Snake. That's the one I always wanted to play in the jukebox.
Man, I agree. But by the way, man, I've got to start dating. My
Oh.
girlfriend's going to rake me over the coals.
Understood.
And she has every right to, because this is her day.
Yeah. And I don't want to get on her bad side either. I know her.
Don't ever. Look, I don't want to remind you, but the head Yahtzee was from Austria.
Yep, I know.
Mm-hmm. Well,
She
Gary,
gets mad at me when I do that. Here's my favorite joke with her. I said, well, you know, you're Germanic. She goes, I'm Vienna. I'm from Vienna. I'm Austrian. I said, I know, but I forget. What language do you speak? Oh, that's right. German. But she speaks true Viennese, Austrian, German, and it's beautiful. German is an ugly language, but when someone from Vienna speaks it, it's beautiful. And when I love her voice. I just cannot tell you. And that, you know, my girlfriend does shows with me, makes me very happy, and I feel very lucky.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I do Military Monday with her. She's not even a veteran, but she has a great appreciation for it. And I love that she does that with me, and I love that she'll jump on with us on Saturdays too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just very lucky.
Nothing wrong with that, brother.
Nothing wrong with that.
So,
Gary,
anyway,
I want
She wants that date
personally
now.
thank you for taking time out of your Sunday to join us here on Pop Talk and talk about Vindicated Inc. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and post the link to Vindicated Inc. one more time. Please support the campaign. It's well worth it.
I think you're thanking the wrong person. I think that's the person you should be thanking right there.
We are $2,500 from goal. Now, agreed, the total goal is 9,000, but I'm not worried about getting that full 9,000 right now. We need 6,500 total, because the remainder of the money goes to Richard Bond, and I need to pay him to get him to draw. And he's doing the flashback chapter. The reason why I chose that is it's the only way I could figure out to get him to work on the book, because continuity, visual continuity, is important to me. And I want the same artwork through the story, but in the flashback, it doesn't have to be the same artist. And I'm telling you, this part of the story is dark. And I told him what happens in it, and he's like, "Holy shit, I can't wait to draw this now." You know, this is a heaping pile of what the fuck, dude, that happens to him when he has to go on an operation. And this is where you meet the kid, and I'm not going to tell you.
I can't wait. Well, I can say that I donated to it, and I'm probably so, and I'm eagerly awaiting. And I know Mike has donated, so there's people out there. Do it. I mean, we bitch and moan about not having good comics and such. Here's your opportunity. Here's your opportunity to support something.
I would like to see that number jump very quickly over the next week, because we're at 68 backers right now, and I would like to see that up in the 80s by the end of the week, because I have got to get Richard working, and I need people's help to get it going.
Well, all I can say is if we need to have a fat bearded guy as a bad guy to just get rid of in a few frames, I volunteer.
And I got Richard to at least agree to work for $100 a page until full backing.
Wow, that's,
you know, I got to be honest, he already offered that to me. I told him I wanted to pay him $150 a page, but I said we're probably going to have to go with $100 a page until we get the full backing. And he says, "Yeah, I'm fine with that." But got to get him going. Yep.
You can't wait.
And by the way, you see the statue there, because the maquette is something huge that I've been working on myself. Is because that's not the actual maquette. I'm working on one because the pose will be slightly different. The pose is going to be that color image of him with the blown away mask.
Okay.
Because battle damage is what I refer to it. Battle damage vindicated. That one right there. And you can actually open that up if you right click that image, the one above. No, the one with M4 in his hand. That one. Right click that and open it up as a separate image.
And I'll go ahead and share it.
There we go.
There you go.
Ooh,
And you
look
can
at
zoom
that.
in on that one. You can actually
Got it.
like
Let me
click on it
Let me
and
get-
zoom in, and you can see the detail I put into this drawing.
Wow. Absolutely fantastic.
And you notice he's not wearing his ballistic goggles either. That's because when he took the blast, when I was drawing this, I'm like, if he took a blast to the face, it probably destroyed his goggles too.
Mm-hmm. It's just
And
those
I didn't-
details.
I forgot to color it, but that line going across the top, the bridge of his nose is also supposed to be bloody. I need to fix that
Okay.
because the mask busted his nose open.
Wow.
But the
And it
detail
didn't
is
chip
one of
away.
the things I really like about your artwork is
Mhm.
how detailed you are when you're doing this.
Yeah, when you look at it, look at my I don't do smooth lines a lot of times.
No.
There's a lot of rough edges to things. My
Mhm.
smooth lines that I focus on is objects. Objects need to look perfect. People
Mhm.
don't.
Right.
And so my people have a lot of rougher edges. But you'll notice like the rings around his strap there, those are smooth
Mhm.
edged. The weapons are smooth edged. The helmet and mask are smooth edged.
Mhm.
Whereas the gloves and the uniform, I'm like, those need to be rough. I like that. They should be rough because they're fabric. So I
Mhm.
don't want to. And then, of course, when I draw faces, I'll use a lot more smoother lines.
Mhm.
But I don't really worry about it too much when I'm drawing people. It's only when I'm drawing objects, vehicles, weapons, shit like that. Get those lines right, make them look right. So because you're trying to make it look like an object.
Mhm.
That's the only time I ever worry about it. So I hope people can back it. We're so close. We're so close. We have 60 days left to the campaign ends,
Mhm.
and but then it's going to stay open even after that.
Right. Please do it, folks. Honestly.
How many days does it say? 61 days. 61 days.
61.
61 days are left.
Mm-hmm.
And I've
So-
got it set up to be April 21st. That's because I wanted to make sure that everybody has a chance to use their tax refunds.
Well, there we go. There we go. And this is your chance to make a difference here in our pulp culture and what we enjoy, comics and graphic
Yeah, it's
novels.
not just two guys
storytelling.
putting out comics. It's not just Ethan Van Sciver and Ripa. There are far more independent comics out there. And if you want good indie comics, you need to support them all, not just those two. They're trying to create the big two in the indie department. And don't get me wrong, I love what Ethan does. I do. And I think it's cool what Rip is doing too. He's working with my friends, Mike Barron and Chuck Dixon. These are friends of mine. And by the way, Mike Barron is writing the introduction to my book.
Ooh, excellent.
I did not go to John Del Vecchio, the best-selling author that takes 2 hours to describe one episode of 60 Minutes. I went to Mike Barron and I said, I could have asked Chuck too, but Mike Barron is somebody who I really admire a lot. He wrote a lot of Punisher that I read. And that's really one of the driving reasons, because the Punisher is a direct inspiration to what I'm doing with Vindicated. I just believe that mine's more realistic.
Plus, he's got a lot of fingerprints and a lot of other titles. Well respected, great writer. Yeah, definitely a perfect person to do that for you.
And I'm going to show you something because I don't know if you can read the full review there by him. Let me see if I can find it real quick for you.
Okay.
Before we go.
Yeah.
Then, because Mike Barron's comment on this is really, God, man, I'm so proud of pleasing Chuck Dixon and Mike Barron on what I did with these comics. They liked what I'm doing. Let me get to Vindicated. Where the hell is it? Now I'm in the wrong folder. There we go. Vindicated funding campaign, and I will open. There it is. This is the one. Large that, and now I will open it so you can actually read this. Share screen.
Okay.
Read these reviews by Mike Barron and Chuck Dixon, what they said here.
Gripping, this book reeks of realism, which is something you seldom see in comics. Mike Barron, The Punisher, The Badger, Nexus, and more. And powerful story, seamlessly coded. Vindicated Inc. is my kind of comics. Chuck Dixon, comic creator and writer for DC Marvel. Yeah. I mean,
you just don't get. I mean,
You don't get any higher praise than that.
no.
and so that's my book, man. And backing my book will help me get this thing done. And here's what's going to suck: if we don't get enough to fund Richard, I'm going to have to draw that flashback scene, and I'm going to have to tell Richard next time. I don't want to do that. I'm hoping you guys will back us so I can get him to do it, because I would love to see some of his artwork. And two, I love working with Richard Bach. He's just one of my favorite comic artist friends. And I have a lot of friends that work in the industry. I mean, I'm good friends with Chuck. Well, when you're friends with Chuck Dixon, you're good friends with Graham Nolan. It's just the law of inevitability. And I worked with Chuck Dixon. My first major gig was with Chuck Dixon, and it was the A-Team. I got to work on that.
Oh yeah.
And I worked on the story that he wrote about Face. That was the issue that I worked on, the chapter. And I don't know, man. That's how I became friends with Steve Niles. And then Steve Niles and I found out that we grew up in the same area. We shopped at the same record store. We were both in punk bands at the same time in the same area. I can't remember the name of his band, but my band was called the Smelly Pubes.
Yep, that's right. I remember you saying that about.
I wrote the song, "There's a Dead Mouse in My Room and It Smells Like Shit." There's a true story, too. I came back from Christmas break and there was a dead mouse in my room, and it'd been in there for a week, and it smelled really bad.
Well, we write what we know.
Yep. That's what I do. That's why I work on a lot of this military stuff. It's what I know, I understand. That's why, like in 2006, I took an oath with myself that I saw this stupid movie. A friend of mine said, "You got to see this movie. It's really good." And it was directed by Sidney Furie, who did a couple of good movies. The rest of his movies are crap. And he did this American Soldier, I think was the name of it. And it's just a piece of shit movie. And I hated it. And I told the guy, I said, "I'm going to stay friends with you, but I don't want to." I said, "You recommended a piece of shit war film that is so disrespectful to veterans." And I took an oath with myself that I'm going to get involved with film, and I am going to change things that help make veterans. And the closest I could get to it was work for Dale Dye, because that was the year I got hired by Dale Dye. I did their logo, and I've been working for them ever since 06. In 2 years, I'll have worked for Dale Dye for 20 years.
Wow.
That's
Strong
incredible.
relationship.
I'm proud of it. That's why it's official artist of Dale Dye's Warriors Global. I'm proud of that. And I'm very proud of it.
Well, you do great.
And he
work,
is the
you should
military
be proud.
advisor, by the way, on my book. He is. He's had to correct a couple things in the book. Nothing I drew. It was what I wrote. And he says, "No, they wouldn't say that. They would say this." And I went, "Oh, okay." And I have two other advisors on this. Michael Beatty is my law enforcement. Michael Beatty is one of my childhood best friends. He's former FBI, former Snohomish County Sheriff's Department. He is my guy in charge for doing anything about the FBI and anything about law enforcement. And then for my Army intel aspects of this storytelling, that's my buddy Jim Woodward. And Jim Woodward served for 25 years in the U.S. Army in counterintelligence, retired and still works for them. He works as a private contractor now for the U.S. Department of Defense, doing the same work he did before as a spy, basically. And he's my advisor on anything I do that has to do with intelligence. Because I go to him and I go, "Is this correct?" And he goes, that's what he does. It's like when I go to these guys, it's not like I have them tell me what I should do. I go to them with what I want to do and tell me, how do I make this work? And they'll tell me how I make it work.
That goes into the category. It's not what you know, it's who you know.
And I know a lot of guys that are specialized skills in a lot of areas, including the stuff that deals with special operations. I've got one friend who's a Navy SEAL and about 14 friends who are Army Rangers. Because I didn't know how I wanted to do this breach in the second book. There's a breach in the second book for the final battle. And I said, how am I going to do this? And I thought, am I going to do a mouse hole? Do you know what a mouse hole is in breaching? That's where you do a shape charge and you put it against the wall. And you know that there's a room on the other side of that wall. That's the room you want to go into. Instead of going through a door or a window, you blow a hole through the wall. That's called making a mouse hole. That's how I was going to do it. And I had this one ranger look at me and he says, no, that's not how you want to do this. And he told me how I should do it. And I went, oh my God, I'm going to fucking do that. And that is what happens in the second book, in the third act. When he breaches the building, it's a 3-tier building. It's a fictional building in Seattle. It's got 3 layers to it. And I did that on purpose as a nod to Bruce Lee and the Game of Death.
Okay.
Because he has to go level to level, fighting a different boss each floor. But instead of, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not telling you. No, you're not allowed to know.
Don't. Before you go, I got one question. Why Seattle?
Because I lived in Seattle. When I was in the Army, I moved up there with my wife, my son. And I was with, I wasn't with these guys then. I was with the 6th Army. And I did some time at the VA there. And then I got out of the military completely because I took care of the kid. And but I love Seattle. I just think it's one of those beautiful cities in this country. And what I loved about it was like I'd be driving home after work, and I'd have the radio going, and you would hear a DJ say this in absolute seriousness. It's a sweltering 72 degrees today. Sweltering. I heard him say it. It really happened. And that the winters there are milder, even though there's a lot of snow. I grew up in Virginia and lived in Missouri for years, and we have a biting cold. When it gets cold here, it bites. It hurts your face. It wasn't like that in Seattle. It was milder. Even though winters were long, and there was a lot of snow, it didn't. My face never hurt like it does here. I mean, you walk out of a house here in Missouri, like a really cold day, you're just immediately feel it in your lips and your cheeks. And I love that. And I love the trees. The trees are so tall there. I got lost just looking at the trees. Not lost, but I would get lost in a gaze just looking at the trees, how beautiful the forestry. You've never seen anything like that. It was like Europe. It reminded me of the Black Forest.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, the time I was out there, unfortunately, I spent most of my time in Tacoma. And
I ended up being a paramedic in Seattle. And when I left the military, and that's what I did when I come home from work, I worked 3 days to 4 days a week, depending on the week. And man, oh man, there's a lot of violence in that town. And I was there right when gangs were starting to build up there. And there was a serious gang problem. And I'm talking about the major gangs, the Bloods, the Crips. And I remember I got caught in the middle of a shootout in a hospital, the Harborview Hospital. We had transported a gang member who had been shot and got him there, and there were cops there. And then all of a sudden, a rival gang showed up, and shots were exchanged in the ER. And I grabbed my partner and I duck walked out of there. I grabbed myself, we're going this way. And I'm duck walking. Got the fuck out of there. I want nothing to do with that. It's like somebody goes, like, because even though I wasn't in combat, I said, I've been shot at. I've been shot at many times, and I'm very calm. I'm trying not to be shot.
Gary, before you go, is there anything you have coming up on Pop Culture Minefield?
Well, tomorrow morning we're going to be doing Sicario 2, Day of the Soldado. I'm kind of excited because we're going to watch that today. I've seen it before, but Ann was going to watch it for the first time today. And I love those two films, Sicario 1 and Sicario 2. I think they're great movies. And I wish Taylor Sheridan would do more like that. I really do. Taylor Sheridan's one of my favorite screenwriters. Even though I hate that other series he did for another network, because it's clear he did not do the major writing in that, because it's messed up. Has to do with the female, the lioness or something like that. Terrible show. Terrible. Militarily inaccurate as hell. Ridiculously dumb military stuff. And I'm like, Taylor Sheridan's not directly involved with this. His name's on it, but no, I don't buy it for a second because he does better writing than that. So that's what we're going to do tomorrow is that movie. And then let's see. I'm also doing right now a campaign for, hold on. I'll tell you who it is. It's an organization that fights, helps soldiers prevent suicide. And I am doing 30 hours of game streaming for them. It's Stop Soldier Suicide is what it's called. And I have to do between now and the 26th, 30 hours of streaming, game streaming with Call of Duty. And hopefully I'll make it there. I've got my first hour in last night. So, and
do you have the link for that site available?
Let me click on profile. I'll click on the profile here. This is the profile for it. And I'm going to put it in the private chat here.
Okay.
Because I don't think I have a wrench, so I can't share it.
I can go ahead and grant you that wrench.
Well, let me go into comments and go. I'll put the word hi.
All right.
I have not paid attention. I normally pay attention to the chat. And I was really focused on talking because I don't want to screw up when I'm talking about my book.
Yeah. And I was focusing on you. So,
yeah, it's all about you today.
Yeah.
And I have granted you access.
There we go. Perfect. So I will share it now. Paste. This is the Facebook page for Stop Soldier Suicide. And on average, I think they said we're losing 3 soldiers a day. Is it? I think we're losing 3 soldiers a day. Veterans. That includes veterans and soldiers, active duty. Suicide is just so high because we're seeing more deployments with this age group. And since 2001, man, more deployments than should be allowed. And it's impacting these soldiers, men and women. A lot of women seeing combat. And we got to take care of our veterans, man. And the Department of Defense, it's not their job to take care of our veterans. It's their job to make sure they have medical care, but it's up to people who care. And I believe that that responsibility lies on us citizens to take care of our veterans. I'm not including myself in that. I'm talking about our combat veterans that deserve to be rehabilitated. Because once you've been trained to kill, you don't want the Department of Defense, who's good at training people how to kill, to also train them how to be human again. No, that's up to us. We need to help them reintegrate and come back to life and learn to find the new normal. And that's what we call it in the military, the new normal. So if we don't take care of them, nobody's going to.
Yeah.
And if you can find it, go ahead. Try looking for this one. It's
the most accurate telling of the taking down of bin Laden that you'll find.
Yeah. So
we got one mistake in there, and I fixed it in the new edition. But the first edition is still available on there. I'm the creator and lead artist on that book.
So just to give you an idea, you won't go ahead, get it. You're not going to be disappointed by it at all.
And Gary, I want to thank you very much for taking time out of your Sunday to join us this afternoon. And
thank my girlfriend.
It was a lot of fun. Yes. And Anima, thank you very much for letting Gary come on with us.
Thank you, baby.
It's a pleasure having you here. And
next time
I'll offer you the same thing I offer everybody who comes on as the special guest for Pop Talk. You're always welcome to come back anytime.
Yeah, have me back anytime. Just not on Sundays.
Okay.
This is the one time, the one off.
And you know what? And we and actually very honored that you did that. Because I do know how precious these times are with you. So
yeah, because it's 10 o'clock there in Austria right now, and so we're starting date night at 10 o'clock in the evening for. So next time, I'll get an earful.
Yeah, and next time we'll just go to Anima and go, can Gary come out and play?
But again, thank you very much. Always appreciate having special guests on, especially when it comes to a project like Vindicated Inc. And everybody, please take the time, look through it, and back it. It's worth it.
Right. And the fact it's being done by a great guy like Gary is even more so.
I'm okay. But you get free
Wow.
2 free chapters to read, so you can tell what the story's about, what it's going to be like, and understand what the seriousness of the story is, as well as some of the humor, because there is dark humor in it. It's got my dark humor in it.
And I want to thank everybody who was here in the chat. Of course, the first one to chime in was Baron. So thank you, Baron.
See, I do that here too, Gary.
Anonymous, T-Gap Steve, or as everybody knows, I like to Anonymous. Of course, T-Gap Steve, or as everyone here knows that I like to call him Big Daddy T-Gap.
Yeah.
And of course, Steven, Deleted Scenes. Good to see you, brother. Lady V Elements was here. Anti-Derivative Jill. Good to see you, Jill. DJ Ronnie G.
I know
Nerd.
all these people.
Pop Culture Mechanic.
I don't know Pop Culture Mechanic.
Paul of Fandomology.
I don't know Paul.
Low
I
Spec
know
Linux
Low Spec
Blacktop.
Linux. I know Low Spec.
Anima. Thank you very much for allowing Gary to spend time with us this Sunday. Greatly appreciate it. Lord Crit of Everest Productions. Admiral Teague. Real Wade Gaming Clips. Good to see you, Wade.
Wade's another
of
one
course-
that I've supported because I love what he's doing.
Yeah, he does great work. A lot of great work. And of course, our guest, Gary of Pop Culture Mechanic. Pop Culture Minefield. Come on, Mike. Get the pop cultures right.
Minefield, man. It's a minefield.
It is.
Yeah, yes, Gary. I am capable of bloopers on this show.
We can blue. Every show of mine's a blooper. 2-hour long blooper.
But thank you, everybody. Please like, subscribe, and follow everybody. Pop Culture Minefield, of course, Baron Orman Tagg's Fandom Legacy, and yours truly, Pacific 4 And remember, don't ever give up on me in a game, because just when you do, you might miss something. Have a good Sunday,
new to
everybody.
your pets. It's fun.
Autobots, transform and roll out. Puck Tuck is where it's at, baby.
I call bullshit.
I do all the time, Baron.
Yeah.